Good morning, a very warm welcome from UNISA's Directorate for Counselling and Career Development. We are happy to have this session this morning about the recruitment process and what recruiters look for in a CV. We've really been looking forward to sharing this with you. So this morning we will have a short welcome by my colleague, Mrs. Mandu Makanya. Lihle Fikizolo will then present to us the recruitment process and what recruiters look for in a CV. We will also then have a short Q&A session after the presentation. But during the presentation, please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A on Microsoft Teams. And then we will just end off the session with a thank you. So I'm just going to ask my colleague, Mrs. Makanya, if she could just introduce our speaker to us. Thank you, Mandu.
Thank you, Lisa. It gives me pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, this morning to introduce our guest presenter today. Lihle is a seasoned recruiter with 8 years experience in agency recruitment, servicing blue chip clients in the property, construction, facilities management, telecommunications and tech, FMCG, and financial services industries in Sub-Saharan Africa, Singapore, North America, and the United Arab Emirates. He began his career in internal recruitment in the mining industry after completing a human resources management qualification, and later found that his passion lies within external agency recruitment. He is an extremely driven and goal-oriented with a knack for finding needles in a haystack and a passion for discovering amazing talent with strengths which include business development, sourcing, application tracking systems, communication at all levels, negotiation and sales, organization and time management, problem solving, and tenacity. In his continued passion for employment services and industrial relations, Lihle recently completed his Bachelor's of Law degree to reach his goal of not only providing employment services to clients, but also industrial relations services to the existing client base by assimilating his recruitment skills and experiences with industrial relations and labor law. Ladies and gentlemen, let us put our virtual hands together and welcome Lihle Fikizolo. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Hazel, for that lovely introduction. And thank you to the UNISA team, Mr. Mzobe, Ms. Makanya, and Ms. Dazel for affording me this opportunity, rather, to present to you the recruitment process and what we as recruiters and line managers of companies actually look for. So I'm just going to share my screen with you so that I can present. Just give me a second. All right. Okay, so yes, Initially, I'm going to give you a brief introduction about myself, just to add on Hazel's introduction. I completed my national diploma in human resources management at the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University down in Port Elizabeth. I graduated in 2012, and then I went on to I recently finished my LLB degree, and I am currently doing my management development program for employment services with the Wits Business School. After completing that, I will be enrolling for my Master of Law in labor law and employment law as well. I started in the recruitment industry back in 2009 at Goldfields Mine back in Valkom. That was internal recruitment, where I was assisting in terms of finding your underground miners, open cast miners, as well as your project managers and your engineers. But then that was strictly internal recruitment, where I was dealing with internal applicants. Later then went on after graduation, I went on to work for a company called The Working Earth. The Working Earth is part of the Advotech Group. They are a recruitment company. They deal with generic recruitment, so they touch base on everything recruitment in different industries. And I worked there on a couple of projects for the likes of JIPA, Nissan South Africa, Translate, and BMW. I then moved on to a 100% Black-owned recruitment firm called Nang Training and Recruitment. Great environment, great team. It felt like home for me. A very well-established recruitment company, especially for two Black women who were striving to better themselves in a very difficult industry, who did very well for themselves. I then left them to pursue a recruitment role in the UK with a company called McDonald & Company. They specialized in the property recruitment, where we look for your property developers, property managers, your quantity surveyors, and so forth. So I did that around the whole of the UK. That was a one-year stint. And then I returned and then I worked for a recruitment company called MTI, Lihle, where I focused on strictly legal recruitment across the United Emirates, Arab Emirates, South Africa, dealing with looking for attorneys who have banking and finance experience and cross-border transactions and so forth. I then moved on to another recruitment firm called Edge Executive Search, where they specialize in FMCG, facilities management, telecoms, and I recruited for North America, Singapore, and in Africa as well. I am now with a recruitment firm, executive search firm called Pinpoint One Human Resources, where we provide recruitment services, contingent recruitment, executive search, C-suite executive coaching. We've got assessments, human resources consulting, and I specialize within the mining, the legal, and the construction space in South Africa. When I say Africa, I mean Angola, Zambia, DRC, Botswana, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Mauritius, and then Dubai as well, and the UK. I've recently started with them around 1st of March this year, actually, and it's actually going great so far. I'm enjoying it. And yeah, so that's me in a nutshell and my background. I am Xhosa by origin. I'm from East London. That's where home is. But I was born that side, but raised here in Johannesburg. And that there in the picture is my ugly face. All right, so what are we trying to gain from today's presentation? So firstly would be for you to understand what the recruitment process is and what it entails and the steps of the recruitment process. I would also like for you to understand how you can identify job opportunities that relate to your specific field. I'll also provide points that recruiters look for at first when going through a application, or rather your CV when you've applied for a job. I'll also go through the skills that recruiters and line managers look for in CVs. And I will then show you a format on how you can maximize your impact via your CV. So I'll just show you an example of my resume. So I'm going to get right into it. There's not much time, but I'll try get through everything as quickly as possible so that we can also go through to the Q&A. So I'm going to play a quick video for you guys. Sorry, I'm going to play a quick video for you guys, just to understand what we look for in CVs and so forth. So here we go. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I hope that was lucrative enough. So I'm just going to jump straight into what the recruitment process is. So it entails about 7 steps in terms of us as recruiters and hiring managers and human resources departments of organizations, the steps that we follow. So the first step would be the planning. So we determined what positions need to be filled within the organization. And we will then develop job descriptions for these positions that need to be filled. So that's the first step. The second step would be the recruitment strategy development. So we need to develop a recruitment strategy which will essentially outline how we can get such candidates to fill those positions. So at this stage, the recruitment team will determine if the candidates are expected to have prior experience, or if they're going to be trained on the job or prior to the job. This step will basically, and this information will affect what needs to be paid for a certain job, and what the company plans to list in the job posting, and what resources might be required for training if need be. And then the third step would be to actually look for these candidates. So at the searching stage, we basically follow a process of actively finding candidates. Many companies will use a combination of internal and external sources of attracting the right people. So your internal process or internal recruitment basically deals with like your promotions or transfers within the positions, and actually reaching out to former employees who may want to come back and you feel like are the right candidates for the certain position. And then your external sources include like recruiting outside of the organization, where you use employment agencies such as myself, who's a recruiter, or you can advertise, go to different campuses, university campuses where you can recruit, and direct recruiting and professional associations such as like going directly into the Black Management Forum or ABASA, the Association for Black Accountants, if you're looking for accountants, or going straight to SAICA if you're looking for accountants, or EXA if you're looking for engineers. That's what we usually do to find the right candidates. And then the fourth step would be the screening process, which is taking the large pool of candidates that we've sourced and narrowing it down to the ones that we want to interview. So we'll review CVs and cover letters and separate the candidates that we feel are unqualified to those that actually seem like they fit the job spec based on their resumes. And we'd obviously consider the candidate's education, their certification, work experience, and their career progression. And then we'll move forward to interviewing those candidates where it would generically happen in person or via video conferencing if the candidate is not within the vicinity that you are in geographically. And then we'd also shortlist to the line managers which candidates we feel like are the best candidates, and then the line managers will then interview or invite the candidates for an interview. And this process is actually the longest process because the interview process is not usually just one interview. Usually you go through about 2 interviews, formal interviews. And then there's also like an assessment, which is either based on your competency or your just a behavioral assessment. And based on the interview and those assessments, and also the risk checks, where we run your qualification checks, your criminal checks, your credit checks if need be, if you're going to be in a position of handling money, your fraud checks, if you are listed for any fraudulent activity, then we run those checks. And if nothing raises any flags or anything is not alarming, then a job offer would be extended through to you.
Apologies on behalf of Lihle. He did say that they are experiencing load shedding, but he will be back with us soon. So while we're waiting for him to rejoin us, I would really encourage you to take some time to post your questions on the Q&A so that we can see, what your expectations would be of what needs to be covered in the presentation. Thank you so much for your patience. I just spoke to Lihle. He is in the process of rejoining. Thank you very much for the questions that you've posted so far. So please go ahead and continue doing that. While we are waiting for Lihle, I could do some of the sharing of the information with you that we normally do at the end of the session, just so that we save time in terms of that. Okay, so just as a reminder for those who've heard about it previously, or if it's new information, we'll be taking part in the virtual Grad Expo that will take place on the 17th of May, the 27th of July, as well as the 17th of August. And the virtual Grad Expo will be an online event where you will be able to chat with employers, with professional organizations, as well as higher education institutions to plan your next steps. So we really invite you to check on my UNISA for updates about this event. And you will need to register for the event, and on those dates that the events take place, you'll then be able to chat with the employers and other institutions. Even though you may not be actively looking for graduate opportunities at the moment, it would still be a good idea to attend the virtual Grad Expo events, since it will help you to learn more about the different organizations, what it is that they are looking for in terms of graduates, and the kind of opportunities that are available. Then just in terms of further career events, we have got 2 more scheduled for April. So on the 20th of April, there's an event, Where to From Here, Planning for Further Studies and Job Search. And then on the 25th of April, we will talk about interview skills, getting the job. So information about these events are also posted on the My UNISA events calendar. Then we also want to encourage you to take a look at the Grad Next ebook. It's a book that is available free of charge. You can download it from that link, and I'm also going to post a link to it in the Q&A. The book basically contains a lot of information about managing your money, how to look for a job, starting your own business, writing CVs and cover letters, personal branding, preparing for interviews, and also networking. So again, it's a free book, so please go and take a look. There's a lot of valuable information in the book that could help you manage your job search and your employability. Let's see if Lihle has managed to rejoin us. Thank you. Please continue to post the questions. We've got a lot of them coming in, but we will try to attend to all of them before the end of the session. Again, we deeply appreciate your patience with us. Unfortunately, with load shedding, these are things beyond our control, but let's continue with what we have. So we thought in terms of, just while I'm still trying to sort out the presentation that Lihle prepared for us, that we take a look at some of the questions that you've been posting on the Q&A, and that will also help him to get an idea of what it is that he could share with us. So Lihle, would you want me to read the questions to you, and then we can take a look at how we can respond to those?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Percy's question is, what can I do to make my CV more attractive to recruiters if I have little work experience? So talking about CVs for somebody, for example, who hasn't got a lot of work experience. Then we've got Caesar, who talks about specifically what do law firms look for in a CV for a graduate with little or no experience in that field. So it's more or less along the same lines. Then Mpumelelo was wondering, are the salaries for jobs that are advertised with a salary notch, for example, 20 to 30,000, always negotiable? What are your tips for negotiating a salary that best meets your needs as a prospective employee? So it's around the issue of salary negotiation. Then Kay is asking, what is the main reason for recruiters to invite candidates or applicants for follow-up interviews? Can't they ask all the information needed on the first interview and not have the second or third interview? So the purpose of follow-up interviews. Let me just scroll through the questions and see if we can try to put them into groups. Okay, then Tukoso is asking for an online CV platform like Eskom. So I guess, for any company that uses their own CV platform where it doesn't give you an option to upload a PDF CV document, one has to fill in the information as required. My question is, do I have to align the profile for every job opening there is that I feel I qualify for? How does that system work, if I may ask? So I guess in terms of a broader level, also thinking about, do I always use the same CV or the same information to apply for jobs, or do I need to, adjust it according to the job or the company that I'm applying to? Then also Percy is asking, is it true that there's certain software that recruiters use that identify keywords in your CV? If it is true, how do I ensure that my CV is not rejected by the software? So let's just given those questions, Lihle, while I'm trying to get your presentation, if you can respond to those.
Okay, happy questions. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. And can you hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Okay, the first one was what do you do, what do you structure, or what do you put in your CV for someone with no experience or minimal experience? Okay, the first part, and it goes for the legal or law graduates as well. It would be to list the achievements through from your first year in varsity and up until graduation. List your achievements, your activities that you've been involved in. That sounds a lot to line managers. It shows that you are proactive, and list the achievements that are industry specific, that speak to the field that you were studying, or even put your pro bono work. For instance, if you went to law clinic, I know Wits has law clinics, I know UCT has a law clinic, University of Victoria has a law clinic. So obviously you in fourth year you were in law clinic, so you would have had to do some mock cases. So speak about those cases. Your mock cases, your pro bono work. Some cases are even real, relating to university matters, student matters, and so forth. So speak about those cases, how you manage them, your thought process, and so forth during that case. And if you are looking to do your pupillage, let's say you want to go to Mazel's Law Chambers through the Johannesburg Bar Exchange Association, then that type of information is very helpful in terms of what you were doing while you were studying. Were you doing any vacation work? Were you a legal clerk at a small law firm, or what is it that you were doing during your spare time, or were you just studying? Put those type of things that for your pupillage, it really works in terms of getting accepted into the as a candidate in the bar association. And in terms of if you want to become an attorney, then doing your articles, it also works. I mean, your extramural activities within the legal field will help that as well. It doesn't just go with the legal field. It doesn't just apply for the legal field. Even engineering, accounting, medicine, business as well. There should be some extramural activity that you were doing during your semester breaks. So list those, even if it was an internship, even if you were just an assistant to a business person. List that's there. It shows initiative. It shows that you want to further your career. You want to progress in your career. So it is a selling point across all industry. And I hope that answers your question for both guys. And then the second question was in terms of salary negotiation. So what I usually do when I speak to candidates, if I like them, and I will be presenting them to line management of my clients, and the same thing applies with internal recruiters, your internal talent acquisition specialists. Before they even present your CV to their line managers, who happens to be their internal client, is that they will break down your current package, and what your current package is. In terms of your cash component, your benefits, all your benefits, whether they're listed or non-listed, your bonus structures, everything. They unpack everything to the T. And excuse me. And then when it comes to the offer stage, obviously HR, myself, the recruiter, and line management will sit down with your most recent pay slip and actually assess out what is the best offer. We don't, or line management doesn't offer you based on your current package. They always offer you based on your experiences. So in most cases, though, what will happen is that Lihle is a chartered accountant. He's got 5 years post-qualification experience. He earns R1 million per annum in a total cost to company. So the position I've applied for, let's say a senior finance manager for a leading FMCG firm, then Lihle, and that role is paying up to 1.5. Me as the recruiter is not going to tell Lihle that the role is paying 1.5. We're going to manage your expectations to the point where you're on R1 million, right? And the market rate at which salaries are offered to candidates is anything between 8% and 12% of their total cost to company. If you get 15 to 20 in this market, you are very lucky, trust me. And I'm talking about executive level. So meaning your salary would would increase, let's say 12%, would increase to 120,000, 1,120,000 Rand per annum. That's a 12% increase. And do you know that starting at a new company, that's a great increase. Whereas in your current employ, you never, not in the South African market, trust me, you're never going to get anything more than a 4% increase a year in your current company, even though you may not be promoted, but obviously based on the company's performance, maybe you performed or your department performed well, and you were part of that performance team, and you also performed individually. So we're gonna give him or her a raise. Trust me, your company is not going to give you more than 4%. So basically, by taking you to another job that's giving you 12%, I've actually accelerated your career by 3 years in terms of monetary value, in terms of money. So I've accelerated your career by 3 years in terms of money. Whereas if you stayed at your current employ, it would have taken you 3 years to actually get the 120,000 Rand that you would be getting within a space of just a couple of months of meeting with me. So the salary negotiation, a lot of candidates become greedy in the sense that we all want money. The cost of living is expensive. The interest rates of bonds and car installments, they are increasing drastically at a rate that no one feels comfortable with. Living expenses are ridiculous. Electricity is ridiculous. We pay for electricity that we don't get 12 hours a day. Water is expensive because of its scarcity. So the water rates are going to increase as well. Living expenses are constantly increasing. I understand that we as candidates, I'm still a job seeker till this point. I'll forever be a job seeker. So I also consider myself as a candidate. We as candidates, we want money. Yes, money is great. We can live comfortably with the money, but obviously we also need to look at the type of benefits that a salary package is offered to you. For instance, they are willing to pay for your master's studies or your honors studies. That's bigger than money. That value is bigger than money. They pay for studies that you wouldn't be able to afford. Masters typically go for between 250,000 to 500,000 Rand. That's just the tuition fees. They haven't bought material or anything, but the company is willing to pay for that. That's a benefit you should look at. Some other companies now, they've looked at, since COVID-19, they've looked at the model of remote work, where you'll be fully remote, or hybrid, where you go into the office some days and work from home some days. That's also a benefit because it gives you flexibility in terms of your work-life balance. You're able to go pick up your kids and spend some time with them, do homework, come back, or even do other things. For instance, it gives you more time and comfortability to actually look for opportunities to progress in terms of your educational spheres and so forth. So I feel like the package should also mention the work mode and also the benefits that you'd be getting. Some people get benefits of medical benefits, or they show, I've got a client that's willing to pay for all the employees' tuition fees and school fees. That's money in your pocket because you don't have to worry about that stuff. And remote work as well, that means that you don't have to have a car. You can Uber, or you don't have to spend as much on fuel, which is also increasing drastically every now and then. So your package should always encompass not just the monetary side, not just the cash component, but also the other factors that will affect your life and your well-being. Because at the end of the day, we want to progress in our careers, we want to have money, we want to have nice houses and cars, but at the same time, we don't want to suffer from mental illnesses because of work and so forth. So the salary package, it encompasses a lot of factors, and this is what I always speak to with my candidates. But obviously, no one would represent you as a candidate on a lower salary than you are currently on. Then that's just not a great recruiter or even a great company to work for. I mean, why would they offer you something less? Why not actually make a lateral move rather, and maybe put in another factor in terms of bonus structures or whatever the case may be. I hope that answers your question. And then the third question was that what's the purpose of recruiters inviting candidates for follow-up meetings? I'll tell you this. That's a good question. I'll tell you this. The purpose of that is because the first interview, you can't really make a decision. Or the first meeting, you can't really make a decision on such a drastic measure of the business. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're willing to pay R1 million per annum from the business to this person. So we need to make sure that we have the right candidate. Even me as an external recruiter, I will meet with, if I need to meet with you twice, I'll even come to you and have a cup of coffee, take you out for coffee, how close you are, so that I get a better feel of who you are. Video conferencing, it's worked very well lately. However, me as an old school recruiter, as I like to consider myself, I like the whole human interaction. Even though I'll meet with you via video conferencing, the first meeting, I can't set out who you really are as a person unless I meet with you face to face. Honestly speaking, I meet all my candidates virtually, and then I'll organize a coffee date, whether you come to me or I come to you. We have a quick 20-minute, 30-minute coffee date just to create that relationship and understand each other, have that human contact as well. I mean, I feel like that's the gist of the reason why we keep calling you back for follow-up. We call it a follow-up meeting, but in all honesty, I liked you in the first encounter, so I really want to see you again. I want to ask a couple of things that I may have missed. I want to maybe learn from you as well. It doesn't mean that we're wasting your time, but I feel like I could learn more from you and you could learn from me as well. So it actually means that I liked you, or that line manager liked you. They just want to suss out the last bit of things, or to see if you're actually going to be, it's mostly about culture fit, to be honest with you. And I hope that answers your question. And the next question was, some companies use their own online formats and so forth, and don't actually give you the opportunity, the opportunity to upload your own structured resume or CV. Yes, that is the case in some instances, but I haven't come across a lot of those in my entire career. But what I've come across is that some companies will use talent tracking systems or talent application tracking systems that have specific requirements to a specific job. Because, say for instance, most of these websites actually, they do allow you to upload your resume. You upload it, and then most of the information in that form or that online CV platform, it automatically populates from your CV that you uploaded, whether it's in Word format or whether it's in PDF. And then you will just go through it, fixing it and so forth. But then if you feel like you like that platform's format, I feel like there is an option where some platforms give you an option where you can download their format of the CV. So say for instance, Career Junction, you type out everything manually, you upload your own CV. But the thing is, when you type out everything manually, it auto-populates your CV that you can just download, and instead of typing your own CV, you use the one from Career Junction and send it to every application. So it is a benefit in the sense that some companies have their own requirements for that specific role, because you find that towards the end, before you submit your application, it asks you specific questions to the role, like the number of years experience you have doing a certain thing, which is probably pivotal to the role and so forth. So, and you can even take that information and structure it for your own CV, because you'll find that, oh, shuck, I actually never thought that should be in a CV. So some of those platforms are useful. It's just, I know it's annoying sometimes because it takes a bit of time, but if you're not willing to put in the time to look for a role or a job, I mean, you're not going to perform. That's just my honest opinion. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. And the last question I had is actually a funny one, was that is it true that recruiters have a certain software that uses a certain algorithm to identify certain keywords? I'm going to say yes and no. Why I say that is because the systems we use when we load a role, before we advertise it onto the likes of LinkedIn, PNet, Career Junction, Indeed, whatever platform, before it, we actually have to list a certain number of criteria that are non-negotiables. Like they need to have a BCom accountant, they need to have they need to be a qualified chartered accountant, they need to have let's say it's a tax role, they need to have a postgraduate diploma or a postgraduate certification in international tax or corporate tax. Those are non-negotiables, like, and the geography as well, the geographical area, like they must be based in Gauteng. So the system, as soon as you click apply, the system will auto-populate the ones that have the non-negotiables. And when I say non-negotiables, those are the requirements. So if you applied for a role that you clearly didn't read in the job advert, I'm not going to waste my time. Even line management is not going to waste their time going through a CV that has minimal information, or that doesn't have the requirements that are non-negotiables for my client, who happens to be the line manager. In my case, who happens to be the company, which is the line managers of these companies that I work with, you know. So I would suggest to mitigate and to avoid disappointment of rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection email, read the advert thoroughly. What are the key requirements for this role? Do I have a BCom accounting? Yes, I do. Tick. Did I do my accounting articles? Yes, I did. Tick. Am I a qualified chartered accountant, or am I eligible to register with SAICA as a chartered accountant? Yes, I am. Tick. Do I have 5 years experience? Do I have 1 year experience? Yes, I do. Tick. Then I can apply. Then when I go to my response list, the system is automatically going to give me a long list of CVs of the ones that automatically pick up the non-negotiables. I hope that answers your questions. Those were the only 5 questions I had, guys. Yeah, great questions, by the way, and I hope I answered them adequately. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lihle. I managed to display your presentation again on the screen. So I'm wondering if you would want to go ahead and go through the slides, and then we could attend to some other questions that you won't be covering.
Number 4, the recruitment process. And we actually cut off at step number 6, when after the interviewing stages, just like I mentioned, the interviewing stages entails, it's really long. It can take a month, it can take 2 months, it can take 3 months, sometimes even 6 months. I've had a role of a CEO of one of the biggest regulatory boards, and that went on for 6 months. That was external recruitment. That just the interviewing process went on for 6 months. That was just the internal process. The external process took, that was an external process which took 6 months. Prior to that, they had their own internal process, which took about 8 months. So the interviewing process, dependent on the level of the role, it can take long. And I mean, the CEO role I was working, they paid the guy, they offered the guy about 12.5 million. I mean, you offering someone 12.5 million, you want to make sure you've got the right person. You know what I'm saying? You have to have the right person in terms of education, in terms of their skills, in terms of the experience of the industries they come from. That's very important. Their publications, what they've done extramurally, just outside of the office in terms of their career, it speaks wonders. I mean, we're talking about someone that's going to be handling a huge business. And as well as the checks that we run, we scrutinize every single thing to the T. Social media checks, assessments. So I'd like to stress that social media, a lot of candidates take social media for granted, especially as a student. I'm one. I'm guilty of that as when I was a student, where we had stupid posts on social media about your nightlives, that you be careful of those things, because in 20 years time we do these checks, and you'll find that this person was involved in a bar fight, and this role doesn't require someone who's not gonna bring the company into disrepute. You know what I'm saying? So those things people need to be very careful of what they post on social media, or how they tagged on social media, because we can go through an interview process of about 8 to 9 months, only to find that this person is actually going to bring the business into disrepute. And we've wasted so much money, so much time on your side as a candidate, and on our side as a business, and my side as a recruiter as well. I mean, so I'm very skeptical on what goes onto social media. When I say social media, I talk about Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Once in a while, just Google your name and see what pops up, because we go to the T in terms of social media. The same role I'm talking about, we interviewed this candidate. We interviewed a total of about 11 candidates. We shortlisted up to 4 candidates, and they went through first interviews, second interviews, third interviews. I did the criminal checks, the credit checks, the qualification checks, the fraud checks, and then it was time to check the political checks and your social media checks. I mean, if you don't want to go into politics, I wouldn't be shouting my political affiliations out there in the public on social media. This is a no-no for me. It's a very sensitive topic. It goes with Christianity as well. I mean, sorry, religion, not Christianity. Sorry, religion. Those type of things are very sensitive. So and we look at those things and based on the companies or the line managers or the roles requirements. Even they say don't discriminate towards this and that, but some roles require a lot of scrutiny in terms of checks. And when the interviewing and selecting process is done, this involves the assessments and the checks and everything, your background checks. We scrutinize. This is the longest exercise. Hence why when we go to the following step, which is the job offer stage, we know that we want this person. We don't have a doubt in our heads that they might perform, they might do this, they might do that. No. We know that this is the type of skills we want. This is the type of person we want. Perfect culture fit. This is who we want. Here's how much we're offering. This is what we're offering. And we provide an offer letter that includes when you will start, how much you'll be working, how much you'll be earning. And we talk about the compensation will have your cash component, your bonuses, if you're getting annual bonuses, it will show you. If you're getting a 13th check, it will show you everything in terms of cash component and the benefits and your days of leave and so forth, and your working hours. And they'll also put there in the job offer your performance, what the company where the level that the company expects you to perform, so that when you sign that offer, you already know what is expected of you. So if you underperform and you go under performance review, that offer, that letter is taken out, and the steps that are followed to make sure that you actually succeed, you won't just go under performance review. With the steps that are followed, where we make sure that you're successful in this role and successful in this business as well. So that we take that out, say this is what we're expecting from you. You signed this document. It's a legal document. A job offer is a legal document that should never ever be shared with third parties. When I say third parties, I mean your mother, your father, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your brother, your sister, your auntie, your mentor. This document shouldn't be shared with them. This is the only document you can share with an attorney. If you have an attorney, if you want someone to have a look at it before you actually sign it, or you can look at it with, if you can afford an attorney, I mean, that's why recruiters are here. People like myself are there to actually help you understand the job offer and so forth. And I obviously wouldn't, as a recruiter, any good recruiter wouldn't come to you with a job offer that they would not take. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to come to you with a job offer that I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm selling myself to the devil. But the money is good. If the money is good and your reason for wanting to leave your current employ is for greener pastures, obviously I feel like, okay, this is a slave job offer, but the money is good. I'm legally obliged to present that offer to you and say, listen, here's the offer. They're offering so much, but this is what you need to do, this, and that. Based on your experiences and your previous employ and how you've operated, I don't feel like you will succeed in this role because of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I will tell you straight up, as a recruiter, most recruiters, I'll tell you now, we want to place candidates. Most recruiters just want to place candidates, make the money, build the client. We don't build candidates, build the client, we get the money. And then 2 months down the line or a month down the line, this candidate comes back. Joe Soap comes back. Joe Soap's like, I'm not happy. I'm resigning. This was a nonsense offer. The money was good, but there's no ways I'm staying in this company. Now we've just wasted everyone's time. I've wasted my time. I've wasted Joe Soap's time. I've wasted Company X's time. I've wasted everyone's time, my resources, Joe Soap's resources, Company X's resources, because this person is tired. This person I presented an offer to him that I knew that wasn't right for him, but because the money was good, I presented it to him and he took it. But if the offer is always less in terms of monetary value, I tell you now, me as Lihle, I will not present that offer to you as a candidate. I will go to the line manager. I'm like, line management, here's the CV. The CV clearly stated Joe Soap is on 1 million rand per annum. Earning is on 1 million rand per annum. He gets medical aid, comprehensive cover with Discovery. He gets Provident Fund. They pay for his retirement annuity. He's got a car allowance, all structured in that 1 million. His cash component is so much. His take home is so much. His net is so much. So you offering him something that's less than, you offering him 950,000 rand. The medical aid is not comprehensive cover. It's not with Discovery. You're not offering him RA. The company car, the company allowance you're offering him is 5,000 rand less, and his take home is way less, meaning he's not going to be able to meet his current needs if he takes this role. So I'm not going to present that offer to Joe Soap. I tell line management straight up, listen, I cannot present this offer to Joe Soap. I cannot. I would be able to swing it if it was a lateral move with just maybe 2 or 3 benefits. Maybe you say you can pay for his child's school fees. Then I would be able to swing it. They'll be having the same benefits. They'll have the same take home, the same net salary. but you'll be paying for the children's school fees or the child's school fees. That's more money for them because they don't have to pay school fees. Then I'll present that offer. I will never present an offer for Joe Soap that undersells him. That's for sure. So once the job offer is accepted by the candidate, if the company was using a recruitment agency or a search consultancy firm like myself, then we then should be taking the steps to onboard this candidate. So the onboarding process entails onboarding. We will need your SARS number, your SARS tax number. We will need your account details and so forth, and we'll show you around the offices, introduce you to your team, give you all the profiles of your new team and who you'll be reporting to, who you need to ask on your first day there, and the nitty-gritty stuff like the smoking areas, the toilet, the bathrooms, the parking arrangements, all the lunch details and all of that, cafeteria details. That's your onboarding. Just it's a transition period where the company takes initiative to make sure that you are comfortable in your new transition into the role. That's the job offer and onboarding step. So onboarding it also assists the new employees about the company's culture, how they operate and so forth, how the processes work and all of that, and helps you prepare for your work and what you expect on your first day and so forth. We do this thoroughly with every candidate to take away it's not a difficult process, but it's a time-consuming process. So we, as the recruiters, external recruiters, we take away the stress of the line managers and the company to the stress and time to actually bring in Joe Soap and so forth. So we do all of that. Obviously, we know the company culture. We go there all the time. We have client meetings all the time. So we always meeting with the clients. We know exactly what they like. We know the company culture. So we wouldn't even approach you if we felt like you were not the correct company or you're not the right company culture, right fit for the company culture. And then at the end, it's the evaluation of the entire recruitment process. So what each step that I previously mentioned, what we do. We analyze the effectiveness of our recruitment methods, where we went to look for these candidates, how much it costs to get these candidates, and what they need in terms of training and how much that's going to cost, and what the satisfaction is, that we determine the satisfaction of the company by employing this candidate, and also of the candidate. And we also find ways of improving the recruitment process in the future. And we use this by using statistical analysis, like our costs, our time spent, and how well the candidates fit our requirements to help with the entire evaluation. So that's the recruitment process. And Lisa, please, can you go to slide number 5, how you could identify job opportunities?
We are there.
All right, perfect. So I'm just going to take you through how you guys or how one can identify job opportunities and how they can be and the different types of ways of actually looking for work and identifying the right role for yourself and your career progression and the companies you'd love to grow in and so forth. So the one that I like, the one that I always use actually is that you must if you're looking for a job, you should always tell your contacts to help you find tell your contacts in your mutual career paths. Like, let's say you were in at UNISA together, and you were in a certain class that you both excelled in. Find those contacts. Find out what they're doing. If you guys did. You studied marketing together. Find out where they are now in their career paths. If they are brand managers for an FMCG house or a manufacturing house, and maybe you want to go into FMCG via the marketing route, and you want to be a brand manager and so forth in the long run, and becoming a marketing executive. So keep those people close to you. So you should tell your contacts who are within the same mutual career that you're looking for work, what you're looking for, and where you're looking for, what you're willing to do, and so forth. This is a good networking way, which is great at finding new jobs. I mean, myself and my clients as well, and other employers, we prefer receiving referral from a trusted member of our staff. Like, say for instance, Joseph Joseph graduated with Jane Doe. So they were in class together, they graduated together, but now Jane Doe is a marketing manager at Tiger Brands, which is a big company. I mean, they've been operating for over 100 years, and a lot of marketing people, good marketing people, will come from the likes of your FMCGs, the big brands. So Jane Doe is a marketing manager at Tiger Brands, and Joseph is looking for work or looking to tap into what do you call this, the FMCG space. And Jane Doe knows Joseph he knows how he works, knows him from varsity. So me as a recruiter, or as a line manager, once I get Joseph's CV from Jane Doe, and Jane Doe is like, this is the guy you should interview, this is a good guy, I immediately look at the CV. I'm like, okay, if you're selling this person, clearly you trust them because you're putting your reputation on the line. Let me meet with this person, okay? And then me as an employer and as a recruiter, I prefer those people. I prefer getting referrals than starting a brand new search. You know, it's time consuming, and I mean, we already have Jane Doe part of the team, and she's recommending so. We trust her judgment. She's performing. She's been with us for 5 years. She's a great marketing manager. Let's give it a try. Let's take her referral. Even though Jane Doe may not be friends with Joseph, they just know each other from varsity. I like to call those type of people learned colleagues. So they're not friends, but they know each other. They know each other's performance. They know each other's background in terms of work and all that stuff, even though they may have not worked together. But that's a good referral. I would employ most of my placements are actually job referrals. I was working a project. I was working a project for one of the biggest auditing firms in the country. It's an international firm with operations across the globe. They've recently actually hired a new CEO in the US. I was part of the panel interview for that role, and it was an internal and an external process. However, I remember where I was part of the external side. I was looking for candidates across across North America, including Canada, because they are the jurisdiction. They are legally allowed to work in the same jurisdiction, in each other's jurisdiction. So I was the external part of the recruitment process where I was looking for candidates outside of this audit firm around North America and including Canada. I was specifically told not to look at South American candidates because of the level of the hierarchical level of the roles in the two different jurisdictions are different. Whereas in South America, the candidates will come in as much junior, and in North America, including Canada, those are the skill tests they want. And in terms of the international framing, international financial regulatory standards as well, which is IFRS and the GARP. They're different, so it's best to look for North America. Even though I was part of the panel that interviewed, so we first started off interviewing virtually, and while we're interviewing virtually, I was invited for 2 nights and 3 days for interviews in Atlanta, in America, where they booked out the entire floor of the hotel, including the conference center, and I stayed here for 2 nights only. But I was part of the panel that was interviewing. So we started off, the first day we started off as an internal process. We sussed out the internal applicants, the candidates that are already working within the audit firm, and we interviewed we first screened them, obviously, then we interviewed them. We sussed out who we felt like the best, who felt like were the suitable candidates. Then after that, we went through via the external route. I brought in my candidates. I had a list of 6 candidates. 2 were from Canada, and the other 4 were within North America, the United States of America, but just different states. And we invited down to 6. We invited those 6 plus the 3 in for more interviews on the second day. And subsequently, the external candidates, they were great candidates. But our problem was that, well, not our problem, line management's problem or the board's problem was that the person that was most promising was in the business. He headed up different jurisdictions as a CEO of this audit firm. For instance, he was CEO in Mexico for this audit firm, and then he moved on to being CEO for this firm in the UK and then Australia. And now he was just a managing director. Because of COVID, he left Australia and wanted to come back home to the US to be with his family. So he took a step down in terms of his career and became a managing director for this firm, but for the entire North American US region. So he was the best candidate. But after that project, they gave me another project to run recruitment here in South Africa. And when I say referral is my best way, I placed a couple of candidates where these people would be auditors for their external division, where they'll be auditing companies abroad, in different countries abroad, but from South Africa. So they auditors of the external division. So I probably had about, when I started the project, I probably got my best 10 candidates. And upon placing those 10 candidates, they gave me referrals. They gave me their friends, their former colleagues who fit the spec perfectly, who were just like them. And I didn't have to do the whole searching part. I was just, candidates were being referred to me. Now, these candidates that I placed are referring their friends. Now, you as Joe Soap, you saw that Jane Doe got a great opportunity at this audit firm, and you feel like this is a great opportunity that you would one day yourself want to be involved in. So you tell your friend Jane Doe, listen, man, I see you started at this company, at Company X, and I see the opportunities are still there. Please refer me to your line managers. That's how most people get most of their jobs. My current role right now, I didn't apply for it. It was more of like, I would say it was a referral. I met my line manager, my chief operating officer, in training. We were on a virtual training. She was working for this our current company. I was working for my previous employer. We were on a 4-day training from a prominent talent hunter trainer who's known globally. She conducts training across the globe on how to find the perfect talent. And after that, we kept on meeting on client briefings. Say, for instance, we get job orders from clients. We get job orders from clients, and the clients want to to brief us. So we would be in the same briefing sessions. And that's how we had the same connections on LinkedIn as well. I would like to stress this as well. Build your career junction, your LinkedIn profile. Build it as much as you can. Build your network there. Build your connections. I built most of my database of candidates and clients just on LinkedIn. And so after we've been meeting on client briefings and so forth, she approached me on LinkedIn. I never applied for the role. She approached me on LinkedIn. She was like, listen, would you be interested in having a chat? That's an indirect form of referral as well. We keep meeting in different platforms. We're in the same associations. We're studying the same thing. The management development program. I met her. We're not in the same class, but we're studying the same thing. Our careers are aligned type of thing. So even our thinking at aligned. So they offered me the role that I'm currently at now, which was amazing. I'm happy. I like it. And it was through a referral, and that an indirect referral. So always make sure you putting your brand out there. Even though you as a candidate, you work for company X, you yourself as an attorney, as an engineer, as an accountant, as a project manager, a quantity surveyor, a domestic worker, a plumber, a truck driver, whatever the case may be, you work for a certain company, you work for company X, but you are your own brand. Build on your brand, and referrals will always look at who is Joe Soap. Let's look at his brand. Build your network on LinkedIn. That's how you're going to get referrals. Stay abreast in your industry news and trends and so forth. Comment on some of the posts on LinkedIn that relate to you or that doesn't resonate with you. Comment with your own opinion. Put yourself out there. That way, someone else who may not know you as Joe Soap will remember you one day, only because they saw you your thought process on LinkedIn, like, oh shucks, I remember Joe Soap. He always comments on this and that. I just saw a role on LinkedIn. I just clicked at Joe Soap that you may have not seen. Then what's the first thing you do? My first connection, posted a role. I thought of Joe Soap, never met Joe Soap on LinkedIn, but he's active in terms of the industry that he's in, he's active. And then I'll go to my first connection who posted this role, say, at Joe Soap. I tagged him so that my connection sees Joe Soap. Now my first connection knows me personally, because they wouldn't be a first connection if they didn't know me personally. They know me personally. They trust my judgment. They're going to look at your LinkedIn profile. They're going to look at your brand, your supposed brand. They look at you. Then they're going to approach you. That's a referral. That's indirect referral. Build your brand so that you can be referred to as much as possible out there. The second form of identifying job opportunities or career opportunities is attending networking events that are industry related to you. Whenever you can, you should attend these networking events. Look on LinkedIn, even if it's virtual, attend these networking events. Most of them are actually free, especially now that we've become digital and most events are virtual. Today is virtual, today was free. Most of them are free. Attend these events, but you must choose the type of events that you want to be in. If you're a brand manager, obviously you're gonna or you want to go into brand management, also you're gonna search for your marketing events. You're gonna look for your brand management events. You're gonna look for if there's a certain industry that you're interested in. You're gonna look at those different industries. Follow them on different social media platforms. Utilize the free digital revolutionary stage right now. Use it, abuse it, make use of it. Such networking events, they include like your conferences, education forums, expositions as well, and sometimes they just an event where we're bouncing off ideas, we chatting about ideas, or it may be topic related. I'm part of an association called SAPNA. It's called the South African Professional Networking Association. I'm not just a member, I'm part of the portfolio committee as well, where my portfolio is the student chapters, where I'm tasked with engaging with different university student chapters, like the accounting student chapter, the student chapter of engineers at University of Pretoria, UNISA, Wits, UP, NMMU, Rhodes, just to mention a few. Not that I'm necessarily targeting the different universities or working with the different university student chapters per se, but the goal is to target them, pick them part of us, where they can guide us on how we can bounce off ideas in terms of how, like, for instance, we've got different themes, different events, and we've partnered with Alan Gray, where we're going to have a women's event, a women's conference, where the topic, they hated my idea, or the title of the topic, by the way, but basically how a woman can have a work-life balance and so forth, how they juggle being a mother, a wife, most of them, and also a career-driven woman and a successful corporate woman as well, how they can be respected and how they juggle that as well. I initially had, my topic was actually chucked out of there because most of the people in our association are actually African females, and my title was From the Bedroom to the Boardroom. But not in the sense that I didn't want it to come across as derogatory to women per se, but like how they juggle it, but in the sense that, okay, they basically the necks of the household, and everything runs through the mother, everything runs through the wife, everything runs through the wife, and then they must still juggle being successful at the office as well, in the boardroom. How do they juggle that? I'm reading a book right now by a great woman. It's Nonkululeko Gobodo. She just wrote her book. She's been in retirement, I think, for a couple of years now. I'm just not sure. I actually used to know his son personally from school, but I'm reading this book now. Nonkululeko was the first Black female chartered accountant in South Africa. I think she qualified as a chartered accountant in 1989 or 1990, but she was the first Black female chartered accountant, and she opened up her own accounting firm, Gobodo Incorporated. I'm sure you guys have seen on if you are in Gauteng and use the N1 a lot in Joburg, just before the Rivonia off ramp. If you catch Joburg North, if you're traveling on the N1, there's Sizwe Nsaluba Gobodo. She was she merged her own firm with Sizwe Nsaluba, which was part of Grant Thornton, but Grant Thornton went back to BDO, so now it's Sizwe Nsaluba Gobodo. And she merged. She was part of the transaction, the merger, and she was group CEO and group chairman of the board as well. And but now she's hung her gloves. She's retired. I'm reading her book, and the way she's actually creating events across the country. Not only is she what do you call this? Not only is she promoting her book, but she's indirectly bringing accounting professionals, or better yet, finance professionals across the country together. That way, people are actively now networking without even knowing that. To them, they are attending a book fair, a book fair by one of the greatest chartered accountants or finance professionals in the country. And they don't know that they're just attending a book fair. They love the lady. She's a very inspiring lady, but they indirectly networking. keep up to date with these type of things that are industry related to these events. Attend these events. Most of them nicely are virtual. At SEPNA, all of our events are virtual as well. And they're free. That's the nice thing. So make use of these events. I used to get most of my opportunity to go to the UK. I never applied for the role. I went to a networking event. I went to the networking event in one of the private banks, and I got the opportunity that way. Okay. No, Eliza, I got your message. I'll skim through. I'll skim through quickly. I won't be too long. So keep up to date with these networking events. Go through there. Go to them. Make use of them, but prepare for them as well. Do your research on the type of speakers who are going to be speaking there. How you actually idealize yourself or their careers and to yours and so forth. Make copies of your resume. If you have business cards, take your business cards with. And also, okay, that's pretty much it in terms of networking events. And then another way also is to contact companies directly. So job searches are more straightforward now that most companies have their own website. I had one of the guys who asked me the questions in terms of structuring their CVs and so forth. So you can go directly into the company. They've got their own websites. You can look at job posts that they posted and so forth.
Go to the companies, research the companies that you want to work for, that you're interested in working for, and look at the types of roles that they have vacant and where they're situated. That way you are directly applying to the company as opposed to going through a recruitment agency. Even though companies will go through will have a recruitment agency, right? And once with the recruitment agency, they also still running their own recruitment on their own side. So you can always look at the different companies, search the companies that you want to work for, and look at the jobs they have, and apply for those jobs directly with the company. So that's also a great way to actually look for roles. Always make use of your data or your Wi-Fi wisely if you're looking for a job, and exercise this exercise very well. Or practice it very well. This way, if a company is interested and doesn't have any relevant jobs posted on their website, they still keep your resume, and you can reach out to them via email or phone and market yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, you are a brand, and especially if a company is not actively recruiting, you still are a brand. They'll keep your CV in file, and if in case something available that matches the caliber of your resume, they'll directly contact you. We don't just throw away CVs. No, we don't do that. Another way is to use job search platforms. So if you want to apply for a large number of jobs quickly and efficiently, use job search platforms to power your search. So you'll use LinkedIn, you'll use PNet, Career Junction, Indeed. You can apply for more than one role at in a short space of time, especially Indeed. So most job search engines will allow you to search jobs by location, the wage, in terms of remuneration, and keywords that you're looking for. And also, if possible, upload your CV and your cover letter that can adapt to each job application. Don't just apply for jobs. Read the advert. Upload your resume, knowing that, okay, I've done this. What the job advert says, I've done it. I do it every day. So, but my CV doesn't sell me to actually secure an interview. So let me structure it in a way that I can secure an interview. I'm not saying lie on your CV. Do not do that. That you can get fired with immediate effect if it's found that you misrepresented yourself in a CV. You can get fired and you will lose at the CCMA. Trust me, because you lied. A CV is a legal document. If you lie on a CV, it's misrepresentation. You get dismissed on the spot. You are out of there, and the company has every right to say, no, they lied on their CV. This is it. And trust me, it always comes out. That's why I'm here. We are here to not to catch you out, but to make sure that we've done a thorough job in placing the right candidate, mitigating the risk of staff turnover. And then another thing is job fairs. You must attend job fairs. A career or a job fair it falls under the networking event, and it aims to get companies and potential employees together to network and share information. Sometimes these events are frequented by large companies that are looking to recruit large number of employees, as well as fresh graduates. So UNISA, I know, does have job fairs. They do have job fairs where the likes of your legal firms, your mining companies, your accounting companies, your large corporates, man, the big companies, professional services, they go there, they have the banners, they try get you to apply for the graduate programs, or they try get you to apply for the internships that they might have. Yes, these will most probably be contract roles, but these are perfect. These are the stepping stone into the organization and building your career as well. Another form is leveraging social media. I stressed social media a lot, guys. Be careful of what you post out there on social media. Be careful of where you are tagged on social media. We do these checks. The big auditing firms in this country, the big law firms, I work with 2 big law firms. I work with 3 big auditing firms. I work with the biggest mining companies in this country. And trust me, it doesn't matter whether you are an administrator or you are at an executive level. If they want me to run your social media checks, let's say you applied for a communications administrator role. As a communications person, you are out there to bring out the brand of that company. We're gonna look at your social media checks, and if there's anything that you've said or mentioned on your Facebook, your Instagram, that puts a previous company where you were an intern or you were employed at a disrepute, trust me, it's not going to go well. We're not even going to employ you. You're not going to be employed. Trust me. Be careful. Do not be careful of the posts you put up where you're holding glasses of alcohol. Yes, it's nice, just a nice professional cheers, whatever. That's normal. That's considered normal. Your thoughts and your 2-cent comments, keep them to yourself. Unless they are industry related, then you can comment whether you agree or not. If you comment, if you agree, perfect. If you don't agree, voice out your opinion, but in a very professional and well-mannered way. But also, this is a great way to reach out to companies. Follow companies on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Follow these companies that you want to work with. Follow the industry news. They post jobs. Follow what they value, the values are as well. See if they align with what you want to do. See what they do for extramural activities, philanthropy activities. What do they do? Are you a person who goes out and helps people, or you're a people's person? What do they do for the underprivileged and so forth? Like, if you go and look at Pinpoint One's website, you'll see that we actually fund and educate young professional artists, painters, and so forth. And we've actually helped them with how they do with their business and marketing they work, and how they've actually taught us what their thought process is in terms of marketing they work. So through social media, you can also keep up to date with the company's media pages. You get notifications, you get a lot of valuable insights in their interests, their working style. You can comment on their posts and start building relationships with the people inside them already. You may even find out about job openings, just like I said, because they do have they do post jobs and so forth. And the last one is to come to the likes of me, a recruiter, an external recruiter. Go out and search on Google. You can even do it on your phone. You search the different recruitment agencies or executive search firms that specifically recruit candidates in your industry and works with companies in your industries and towns, obviously. But my biggest thing is that search recruitment agencies that are specifically focusing in your industry. That way you go to them online, or most recruitment agencies now, they don't like the whole walk-in type of thing. That's old school recruitment. The walk-ins, I'm looking for a job, everything is digital now. Go on our website, you look on our website, okay, I can register my CV. I looked through the roles. I don't like the roles, or there isn't a role right now that fits the caliber of my profile, whether I'm too qualified or underqualified, but there's nothing right now. But this is the type of roles that they work with, and these are the roles that I'm looking for. Then you can register your CV. It's there, because the first thing we do before we go to PNet, Career Junction, or even look at our response from the ad, we go internally. We go to our website, who registered on our website that fits the spec. That's the first step. That's the easiest step, because it shows that, oh, this person loaded their CV 2 days ago. Oh, he's actively looking, is good. Or they loaded their CV 6 months ago. Okay, let me call him. Are you still interested in a role? Here's the role. Are you interested? That way, we started the process. Not by me looking for you, but you took initiative by registering with our database. Therefore, I was quick to find you and actually call you. So you took initiative, making the entire recruitment process much easier and fast-tracked on all sides. My side, your side, the company's side, which is my client. So that's it in terms of the different models of identifying job opportunities and how you can go about to look for roles. And the next step, the next slide, or the next outcome is the things that recruiters look for when we go through job applications or a CV. I'm going to go through it very quickly. I'm not going to take up much time because I know I wasted a lot of time thanks to our power provider. So the first thing we look at is your career continuity. It takes time to learn the ropes of a new job and actually carve a place within a team. So one whose career trajectory shows frequent jumps, like you continuously, I mean, you can't join company X and then 6 months later you join company Y, and then a year later you join company B, and then 6 months later you joining company F. That you are too jumpy. That is a risk for us, and it does not determine that you are a determined person. It doesn't show that you are a determined person and have stamina to stick around long enough to make a difference within that team. It shows that you can't stomach uncomfortable situations. It is not easy to join a new environment. It's the hardest thing. I left my previous employer after 2 years, but I joined where I am right now not because of the money. Yes, the money was good, but also my career growth. And it showed that, okay, and my current responsibilities, I'm going to be recruiting not just in South Africa. I'll be doing this abroad as well. And it gives me, I also have a sense of empowerment. I feel so empowered where I am. I make my own decisions. I don't have to run them through my CEO and so forth. But also jumping a job every 6 months, every year, jumping. It shows risk. It shows that you are not loyal. You are not fit enough to stick enough to make a difference within that team. I mean, the only reason you're joining a new company is for your own personal growth and professional growth, but also to make a difference. Unless you're just there for money, then trust me, you are not a candidate that most companies want to employ. If you're just chasing money, everyone wants money, just like I said. But if you're just chasing money and moving every 6 months or every year, you are not a candidate that companies want to employ. So make sure that you show determination, you show career continuity. Don't stay less than 2 years in a role. Trust me, unless it's a contract role, that you cannot change. You cannot help it. It's a contract, it's done. You have to move on. But if it's a permanent role, be careful of job hopping. We don't look for that, especially employers. And then the other thing we look for is customization. So the candidate's CV and cover letter should align with the job description and requirements. So your CV should clearly state and show your work experience, your education, your skills and achievements that relate to this job or the application that you are making. So make sure that your CV, even though you know that you can do this job, this is what you've been doing, but make sure that your CV is structured in a way that it meets the requirements in terms of experience, education, skills, and achievements. Add in a couple of things that you may have missed that's in the job specs, like, oh shucks, I needed to have cross-border transaction experience as a banking and finance legal associate. Okay, I didn't put it in my CV, but I've structured a transaction between a large international banking firm or company and with a mining company. I structured a $20 billion deal, but I didn't put it in my CV. But the job spec says I need cross-border transactions. That way, that's what I'm saying. Like structure it and align it to the job restriction and requirements. But be careful not to lie. Do not lie. If you didn't do it, you didn't do it. No one's going to die. Don't lie, because once they find out, and they will either by how you perform or external parties. Industries are very niche and people know each other in each industry. So people talk. So it will come out if you lied about something. Eventually, at maybe 5 years later, 10 years later, it will come out. There was a candidate I placed, quick example, sorry, a candidate I placed with a big one of the listed mining companies in a finance position. They were a senior finance manager. However, this person, they were Zimbabwean, but then that wasn't a train smash. Employment equity requirements were not a train smash for the specific role, could recruit from anywhere. So this person lied on the CV, and basically what they lied about was not the qualification, it was the post-grad qualification encompassed with the experience. When they started the job and now they needed her to actually perform this, they were a bit skeptical, like, but you said you've done this, you've done that, we expect you to do it. Fine, but okay, that's fine. You employed. They took her in for training. She was successful. 5 years down the line, the lineman, it was time for her to be promoted to director level. Effectively, she was even fired, because when they did background checks now, because the director level, the level of checks are different, they found that she had misrepresented herself in her CV, which is a legal document. So customize your CV towards the job description and requirements, but do not lie about what you've done or what you have and what you've not done. Do not, be careful about that. And then the other thing that we look for is effective communication. I personally am drawn to clearly written CVs. For those candidates who include an objective statement. When I say objective statement, I mean okay. So for those candidates who include an objective statement in the resume, I want to be able to immediately see strengths, background, skills, and industries you've worked in. And in terms of objective statements, I mean, a well-written CV for me, and that I review, I'll clearly pick up if you copied and pasted something. So the way you write your CV speaks wonders and speaks a lot about how you as an individual can communicate verbally, written, via email. Are you writing professionally? I am Lihle Fikizolo. I am a recruiter. I worked as a internal recruitment consultant at a mining company. And I did this. I'm just writing paragraphs, not bullet points. No, it shows how you're going to be drafting emails. The way you write your CV shows how you're going to be drafting emails, how you're going to be talking with stakeholders, how you're going to be communicating at different levels of the organization. So effective communication can be clearly stated in the CV, not that I have effective communication, how you write your CV. Do not copy and paste duties. Anyone can do that. That is not your own work. In university, it's called plagiarism. That wasn't your work. Type it out, rewrite it in your own words. words. Another thing that we look for is the ability to follow direction. So when hiring, especially for remote positions or remote or hybrid jobs, the first thing I look for in a candidate's application is their ability to follow directions. So did the candidate do what was asked of them during the application process? Did they provide documents and a cover letter and a CV, just like we said, even though we may have said it's not a necessity, like on the website, like the candidates, going back to what the candidate was saying in terms of how the website structures the application systems. If I say that if we put there that, okay, we want a cover letter, but we don't put a red star in it like it's a must, but we would like it. If you don't, trust me, we're not going to look at it. We want to see that you actually following directions, even though it wasn't required, you did it. It was a direction, but it wasn't a necessary direction. Did you respond to the request and share why would you best fill the role? Or did you just send a generic message? Hi, I'm Lihle. I'd like to apply for the finance manager role that you advertised. No, a person's ability to follow directions and read in between the lines of the job description, it shows that you are a good candidate to consider. You are able to follow instructions. And then another thing we look for is previous job descriptions. So some candidates will list their job descriptions and their duties, which look highly like the ones they were probably given upon when they were employed. So wording duties, like just like I said, copy and paste. So if you put your duties, like let's say for instance, how you word your duties, processes invoice rather than process invoices, it tells me how you most likely copied and pasted the responsibilities for that job, then taking the time to actually tell me what you really do or did, writing it in your own words. The job description or your job profile says you are required to process invoices. Okay, don't just tell me you process invoices. You process how many invoices per month? What are your steps in processing invoices? How do you chase up on invoices? Be thorough as much as you can. Processing invoices, you just copied and pasted your KPIs, you know. And another thing is that we look for is sense of authenticity and self. So I look for candidates who happen to have experience relative to the job, and that special something that brings their skills to life, you know. So frequently the best hire is someone with the greatest number of intangible credentials. So I look for a sense of authenticity and self to come through in the application. So I'm looking for something that stands out. What makes Lihle Fikizolo? I studied human resources management as an undergraduate. I got into recruitment. Okay, I'm in recruitment right now, external recruitment. I did my NLB degree. I've got an NLB degree. I've got a human resources degree. What does that show? That shows it's an intangible credential. For a recruitment role, I don't need to have a law degree. So it's an intangible credential. It shows that I'm a career student. Even though I'm progressing in my career, I'm also a career student. I'm finding other ways to diversify my career. I don't want to be an attorney. I don't want to be a lawyer and advocate, but I want to assimilate my recruitment skills into industrial relation skills and labor law relation skills, and not only provide recruitment to my clients, but also provide labor relations services to my clients, where I represent my clients when a candidate has taken them to the CCMA. I'm able to represent them. I don't only recruit for them, I can also represent them. But I also need to be careful, because it can be a clash, because I can't be representing a company where I placed a candidate that's taking them there. The only thing I can do in that sense is provide them with evidence that this is the process we followed, this is what we did. But I don't just want to recruit, I also want to provide IR or ER, employment relations or industrial relations services to my clients. like for instance, if I was already qualified as an IR specialist, which I'm in the process of finalizing, then I would be able to run with the Section 189 retrenchment process of the likes of Telkom that they were going through. You know, I could have won that work, but what happened? It went to someone else. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm diversifying my career. That's what intangible credentials are. So I'll give you two quick examples. The first example, my former employer. My recent former employer is a chartered accountant by professional, comes from PwC. She was in the stages of becoming a auditing partner, external auditing partner, which is huge for a company like PwC. It's huge, but she started off her own recruitment company. She's not only diversified, she diversified her career by being a chartered accountant professionally, but also she has a recruitment business. She doesn't practice accounting anymore, auditing, but she has a successful recruitment business that's been running for 12 years. She also is a qualified international tax professional. So she's diversified her career. She's not stuck in just finance or auditing. If she wanted, she could close down the recruitment business, go and get a full-time job with an auditing firm at executive level. She's had offers like that many times, but she's turned them down because she's career driven in terms of running the recruitment business. And she's gotten a lot of offers in terms of providing services for her tax skills, because she's an international tax professional as well. So diversify your career as well through your studies. And another example, I've got a cousin of mine, and this also speaks to the gentleman who was asking me about how a new candidate with no experience for a law firm become attractive in being noticed. I'm going to quickly tell you, telling that individual, a quick story about my cousin. Quick one. So my cousin, he studied his LLB, right? He graduated at the University of Pretoria. He is 2 years younger than me. He's 31 years old. He graduated from the University of Pretoria with his LLB. He did his articles, but he decided that law is not the profession he wants to follow. What did he do? He went and joined the corporate sector. He went to a very large telecommunications and network services provider, joined the graduate program there, and while they're exposed to data law and data privacy, and then he went and did his LLM, his master's in data law. You know, and then he went on to join another big automotive company, Mercedes-Benz, and then he left Mercedes-Benz. He went to Sasol. From Sasol, he went to a big data company. You see what I'm saying? Like, and in each job, he stayed for about 3 years. But as he's staying there, he did his master's in data law, and now he's finishing his MBA. He's diversified his career, not just in law. He's now the senior data privacy officer for Africa for that data company, which is an international company. There's only 3 or 4 people in the country who are at that level in that industry, and he's one of them. At 31 years old, he's earning a salary that it would have took someone who's just stuck to law about 20 years to earn, and he's only earning it at 31, and he's the next runner up. They actually training him to become the next CEO for the African operations of that business at only 31. So by 36, 37, he'll be the youngest CEO this country has ever met for an international company. So always find ways of diversifying your credentials and your career, and by always staying abreast with the current skills that are required out there. I mean, look, if you are in finance or are you work for a bank or a finance company, or you want to work for a finance company, They're going into ESG now. ESG is a big thing. The mining companies are always looking for ESG. ESG is environmental, sustainability, and governmental. That if they're going through those standards, if you are a finance professional with an ESG postgraduate qualification, they're going to take you with flying colors. So research on how you can diversify your credentials and your profile. It's also good for you in the sense that it saves you in the long run if you want to stay employed, or if anything happens. A lot of people saw that in 2020 lost their jobs or got salary cuts. Some people had to open up businesses in the same industry that they're in. That most people were too specialized and it didn't work for them. The ones who started the businesses where they were too specialized, the businesses collapsed within a couple of months or a year. It did not work for them because they were too specialized. Diversify your profile, diversify your career. Don't just stick to finance. Don't just stick to legal. Why don't you mix the two together? Look at the industry's trends that are out there. What is really needed in South Africa? What are scarce skills? Where have you ever heard of an engineer with who's a registered engineer with EXA, who's got a master's in construction law? Civil engineer with a master's in construction law. They can go work for the construction industry, or if that doesn't work, if that industry is failing, they can go to the legal industry, the professional services. They go to the law firms and work on a consulting basis. They're full-time employed, but they're in the legal firm. They're still employed. That way, they saved themselves in terms of the COVID-19. You know what I'm saying? So you always need to look at diversifying your portfolio, and that is what I mean by sense of authenticity and self. That's what we look for. We love those candidates. Even if you do an online course, a software course abroad that's industry related that South Africa doesn't have, it shows that you are authentic and you want to have those intangible credits so that you can be you can fit anywhere in the world and in any business and so forth. Another thing we look for is agility and flexibility. So we live in an agile world, guys, like where we need to focus more on hiring for potential rather than just the project or the role in front of us, because agility and flexibility and willingness to be flexible, they're very pivotal, especially in our ever-changing digital world we live in today. Who would have thought that I would be conducting this presentation virtually in the comfort of my own living room? No, back before anything, before COVID, actually, that was our wake-up call. COVID, we were doing everything in three-dimensional. You know, everything was old school. That's old school. It was face-to-face. You know what I'm saying? And so we look for agility and flexibility. And if you are able to be agile and flexible, especially in a digital world, it shows that you can fit in anyway. You can fit in, adapt, and hit the ground breaking. Another thing that we look at is the length of your CV. Guys, do not make CVs long. Trust me, do not. I've come across CVs, even of executives, where it's like 30 pages long. Despite all advice to keep resumes short, man, many people do have very long CVs that go past more than 5 years or 10 years ago, or even 20 years. But a long CV tells me that you haven't put enough effort into your CV to update it. Because all you did was you take your old CV from 10 years ago, you copied and pasted your job duties from your previous job, your KPIs, and it just made it long. You didn't take enough time, you didn't put enough effort to update your CVs. I can't make a decision. Well, you can't make a decision on what to take out, or you think the rules shouldn't apply to you. No. There is nothing positive about a lengthy CV. Make sure you've got the most important parts of what you want to add in your CV. No one wants to look at a 30-page CV. You can have a very nice and short summary CV, which just has your job title, the company, and the duration, and then you send it through to the recruiter or the line manager, and then you must also always mention that if you require a detailed CV with job duties, I am more than happy to send it through. But make sure that you keep it as short as you can. I'm not saying take out a lot of things. No, you can't really suss out what you must take out and what you must keep in. But for a specific role, if you have a long CV for that specific role, make sure that it is structured or customized, going back to point 2, customized to that specific role. So it goes back to saying, read the job advert thoroughly and make sure you understand it. Go to your CV, look at it, make sure that it's structured to what they want. If you don't have to change anything and it's not too long, then feel free to send it through. But trust me, anything that's like 15, 20, 30 pages, oh my God, we just get tired. We even stop reading maybe on page 6, like, okay, I'm done. Anyway, the other thing we look for is spelling and grammar. Guys, it may sound old-fashioned, but when submitting a CV, spelling and your grammar, it is very important. It goes back to the skills of communication. It shows how you communicate. This is one legal document that should never be rushed and is very time sensitive. So you should therefore take time, a lot of time, to read word for word, review, and maybe make a bit of changes or tweak it to what the job requirements want or looking for. And have someone else even edit it prior to submitting it. Even if I've approached you and you see, maybe via LinkedIn, and you email me your CV, I'm going to tell you straight up, tweak it this way, tweak it that way, keep it nice and short, but your spelling and your grammar, very important. In South Africa, we use the British dictionary. We don't use the US dictionary, we use the British dictionary. So when you're using Word, make sure that you've chosen British dictionary, not US, because if you spell, how can I put it, organization, it's different. Organization in the US is different to organization in South Africa. US is spelled with a Z. South Africa and British is with an S. So be careful of that. Make sure that you use the British dictionary and on your Word. And every job description asks for strong written communication skills. And this, your spelling and your grammar, is the first place to display this to a potential employer. We also look for wins, numbers, and metrics. So in any CV, I want candidates who can show and demonstrate using numbers the impact that they made in previous roles or schooling. Like, for instance, if a candidate can succulently articulate the story behind their achievements and show that story in the form of metrics on how they improved performance or increased revenue or grew users. If you're coming from an IT perspective, you increase users and user satisfaction, you increase revenue and so much. Put those numbers there, those achievements, that speaks wonders. Brag about yourself. It is your document. Brag about yourself as much as you can. You'll see in my CV, I'll show it to you towards the end. I'm almost done. How I've structured my CVs. I've bragged about my achievements dating from high school up until varsity. I've bragged about it. Tell them in numbers or in terms of your performance on how you are measured in your industry, in your career, in your job. How are you measured? In accounting or auditors are measured on a scale of 1 to 4, scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the worst performance and 1 being like you did the most. Put things like you were in the dean's list in first year and second year. You were golden key holder. You were Tutuka Award winner. You got 8 distinctions in your final year. You graduated summa cum laude. You created a platform that assists students in getting access into the MyUnisa documents easily from their phones or whatever the case may be by just a click of a button. brag about your achievements and numbers and metrics and what your targets were, what was expected of you, and what you achieved. Even it may be below, but just mention it. But I wouldn't put something like, okay, if I was anything that was 50%, I'd always put something that was always like 70%. I achieved 70% of what my target was, or I achieved 150% of what my target was. It's an indication that they see the bigger picture. And sorry, it's an indication that you as a candidate see the bigger picture in life, and you are very data-centric in terms of profession and professional. Being data-centric is a very big thing in any industry, because there are KPIs out there. You get measured to what your tasks get measured, and your performance gets measured against your KPIs, which are clearly stipulated and stated when you start. So use that. Like, if you have your KPI meetings monthly or every 3 months, and your line manager is happy with that, make sure you record that on your CV. Immediately go back home, update your CV. I did this, even if it's at night. I did this, I achieved so much. This is what I got from my line management. Even take your LinkedIn post. For me as a recruiter and any other salesperson or any other profession, actually, you work with people. These people are gonna write recommendations on you on LinkedIn, or write you a recommendation letter. But it's easier to always go on a social media platform like LinkedIn to write a recommendation on someone. Take that, take a snippet and put it in your CV. Something that's relevant to your career and the job that you're applying for. Otherwise, take it out. Don't tell us that you were a first-team rugby captain. Yes, that may speak for someone who's a new candidate who has no work experience, because it shows leadership skills. But as the first-team captain of the rugby team at St. Stithians College, how many games did you win? It speaks wonders. How we won 15 out of 17 games. We drew 1, we lost 1. Speak to metrics. Don't just say I was a rugby captain in the year 2005 at the school. Done. But you may have been the captain, but the whole team may have lost. I mean, you may have lost all the games. So what type of leadership style does that speak about you? You know what I'm saying? So always talk about your wins that are related to the industry and how they were measured. And another thing is how you present yourself. This is very interesting. So I am always interested in how the candidate presents themselves as a person, not obviously how you present yourself in terms of how you dress and how you conduct yourself and how you speak. Yes, I will look at that. But now we're just looking for the CV. It's before I even call you for an interview. So what do you emphasize on, and how do you talk about your experiences? The titles are relevant and skills can be taught, but the evolution of someone's experience, how they think about it, and the types of tasks they've completed to go above and beyond demonstrate their growth and potential to be a successful candidate in a role.
It will show hiring managers that you are able to work within a team and independently with very minimal management. Like you don't have to be micromanaged. So we look for adaptability, communication. So effective communication is a very pivotal factor for success in most industries, not just any industry, actually in all industries, whatever you do, whether it's junior, mid-level, or executive, or communication is very important. So you need to be able to, you need good communication skills to be able to interact and actually build relationships with your colleagues, your line managers, clients, and external stakeholders, and your internal stakeholders. You need to be able to communicate, and how you communicate, it always starts with how you structure your CV, how you typed your CV. It always starts there. So the skills we look for in CVs is communication. So the communication skills will include being able to write reports. Are you able to write letters? Are you able to draft emails professionally? And are you able to speak confidently in three-dimensional or on the phone? And are you able to actively listen so that you can respond comprehensively and negotiate with not only external clients, but or customers, but internally as well, your stakeholders, your managers, and your colleagues. Those are your clients. Are you able to confidently and professionally communicate with them, whether written or in person or on the phone? Organizational skills, we look at, these are skills that start with having a well-structured resume. A well-structured CV, it will clearly state out that you have organizational skills. So employers and myself and recruiters, we want candidates who can manage their time and schedule tasks effectively to deliver on their deadlines and not meet deadlines. So it would also include having a tidy desk. You have a good work ethic. You on time, you get to work on time, you're never late, you meet your deadlines. Should you see that I'm not able to meet my deadline, then I communicate before the deadline comes, or I'm effectively communicating. That's what part of good work ethic. I'm on time, I'm never late. If I can't attend something and I've got appointments that clash, I have someone who can fill in for me. I have that put in structure, I have that in place, and sound management practices. That's what it includes. So a good way to make this skill resonate with an employer or a recruiter like myself is to demonstrate it in how you organized your CV. How you organize your CV, that's how you demonstrate your organizational skills. It shows how you work. This CV was messy. I mean, it started with his current employer, and then it went to the previous employer, and then it went to 5 years back, and then it went to 2 years ago. How you structure it determines your organizational skills. And then we look for integrity. So integrity and honesty, it's a trait that all companies look for in candidates. You need to be completely honest and transparent about your experiences, your education, and we want to know whether we can trust you with confidential information as well. We can trust you with our trade secrets, our IP, our intellectual property, our customer savings, our customer information, and other sensitive company information. If you list this in your CV, me as the interviewer, I'll ask you to provide me with instances where you showed integrity and honesty in a company. So this is where you have to demonstrate how you are honest. List an example of how, let's say, in a position that handles finance, you notice some discrepancies in a financial statement, and you immediately reported it to your financial director before signing off those financial statements, because there's this transaction or there's discrepancies here. That shows your level of honesty. So you need to actually demonstrate it by providing examples of how you showed integrity and honesty. And then there's problem solving. So most companies want people who can provide effective and quick solutions to problems. All companies have problems. The biggest problem any company has is deliverables. Everyone needs to deliver. That's a problem. We need to deliver in order to be lucrative financially and to be a big footprint in the industry. So bringing in the candidate, we need a candidate who's able to provide effective services that will be a quick solution and effective solution that we won't have to change in the next couple of years to becoming or becoming a good deliverable company. Some employers have positions dedicated to solving specific problems in the operations and the different business units and departments, and having the capacity to come up with timely solutions very quick when your department or team runs into challenges can improve your chances of getting hired. So always have examples of how you solved the problem, what the problem was, what your thought process was, and what steps you followed in solving that problem, and what the outcome was. And if the solutions you came with are still being utilized even after you've left, then that's an achievement listed in your CV. We're always looking for those problem-solving skills. We also look for candidates with teamwork skills. So most jobs require some level of collaborating with other people, whether it's internal and external. And us as recruiters and line management, we want candidates who can perform at the most professional and highest level in a team environment. So we will often ask about how your collaboration during the interview through questions. So we'll ask you in the interview in a collaboration of questions relating to your work style. So we may not be asking you indirectly, are you a team player? We'll ask you, and line management will ask you in a way where you have to provide not an example per se, but an answer that clearly stipulates that you work with a team, and you can work with a team and you can be successful with a team. And people who excel in teams often have good communication and interpersonal skills, which are the most important attributes that all companies and line managers look for in candidates and people. We also look for candidates who have skills of responsibility. So taking responsibility of your duties and mistakes is a good attribute to successful employees. If you made a mistake, say it straight up. I made a mistake. I messed up. I did this in terms of this. And I felt like I should have done it this way. I did it this way because of so and so. If you are able to take responsibility of that, and even if you can't meet a deadline, you take responsibility and say, listen, I cannot, you speak, you communicate out there like, listen, I cannot make this deadline because of X, Y, Z. Can we perhaps extend for you propose a date, and or you either maybe suggest to make or arrange the requirements of your task to be a bit more flexible to what's at hand. So this trait will show that you don't need constant supervision to complete your task. If you go to your line manager and say, I made a mistake, I did this, your line manager will immediately be like, okay, number one, you've crossed out the integrity part, you've crossed out the organizational skills part, you've crossed out the communication part, and now you're crossing out the responsibility skills. Your manager, your supervisor will completely be like, I don't need to constantly supervise this person to complete their tasks, because when there's a problem, they come to me and say, this is what's happening, this is what's on my desk, how can I manage it? You know what I'm saying? It can also demonstrate your own willingness to own up to mistakes, accept feedback, whether positive or negative, and criticism to improve your performance from the experience. Because if you keep quiet, you're not going to improve. Take ownership, take responsibility, speak out. Another thing we look for is candidates with skills of attention to detail. This attribute, this skill describes your ability to follow instructions and directions the right way to complete your tasks according to the specification and the end result of these tasks. It's a very important trait that helps you avoid mistakes that can lower the quality of products and services and delay your project, your project delivery. If you read your specifications and ask questions as much as you can, attention to detail, you will mitigate making any mistakes. What I do when I get a job spec, I literally read the job spec word for word. I make notes. As I'm reading it, I am writing down my own notes, and at the same time trying to write the spec down in my understanding. Therefore, if I have questions on where I may need clarity, I can always go back so I can understand it better. So I'm paying attention to detail. A lot of recruiters, not just recruiters, a lot of people, they do not pay attention to detail. And it's so easy to pick that up just by looking at an email someone has drafted. You know, it's so easy to pick up if someone has this type of skill, their attention to detail, even just by looking at their CV. Pay attention to detail. read the job spec, read the instructions, read what is needed. And that way it will show that the employer and the recruiter that you are able to pay attention to details so that you can mitigate performing errors and mistakes. The last thing is emotional intelligence. So in a dynamic workplace where you interact with a lot of different personalities, a lot of different people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, and industry backgrounds, and personal backgrounds as well, whether it's their sexual orientation or the color of their skin or their tradition. It is crucial to be emotionally cognizant of this. Be careful of your comments about certain types of things in the workplace. Be careful of derogatory statements because it will show the level of your emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence allows you to manage your emotions in a way that doesn't affect other people negatively. You may not like working with Caucasian people and you are an African person. You may not like working with African people, but you are a Caucasian person. You may not like working with a homosexual person or a Christian or Islamic person, but this is the workplace. We do not care about where you come from, your backgrounds. We care about if you can focus on your and perform and deliver on your job's task and what is required of you. So keep it to yourself. It also goes to the whole social media thing. I cannot stress this enough. Keep it to yourself. It shows that you can manage your emotions and you can effectively work and deliver on your tasks and projects without having those silly factors that you may have gotten adopted from your personal life or in the past, but keep it to yourself. That way it shows that you can work with people without negatively discriminating against them, but actually looking at their work. So that is it in terms of the presentation. I'm going to share with you right now the format of a CV. I've formatted my CV. I've been working since 2009, so I've formatted my CV. I could have made it maybe about 20 pages, but I just kept the perfect and the essential things or aspects and duties that are required for a talent acquisition specialist like myself. Because I'm not going to be looking for other jobs, but if I were, this is what I would want the recruiter who's looking at my CV to see. So it's very brief and it's not too long. I'm just not sure how many pages. Yeah, it's 7 pages. I always believe in putting a picture, especially in this day and age. We're running interviews virtually before we can actually even meet with the candidates. Put your name there. You can either put it at top. It doesn't matter where you put it, but the way you structure it must always make your CV look simple. Can you guys see my screen, by the way?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Lihle.
Perfect. Yes. So I always believe in putting a picture. Make sure it's a professional picture. You look decent. You dressed appropriately. If you're a person with long hair, like make sure maybe it's tied up. Your hair is tied. Like if you're a male with long hair, African with dreadlocks, make sure they neat in the picture. Make sure you put a professional picture, not a picture of you and your buddies or a picture that's been cropped of you and your buddies. No. Please make sure you put a professional picture. And then the next thing would be the qualifications, because that's the next thing that recruiters and line managers are going to look at, because a specific job spec has certain educational requirements that it has. So I always put it from top to bottom. Would be my most recent, which will be my MDP, which I'm finishing now in 2 months' time. The one that I've completed is, so year by year, I always put the expected year or the year that I've completed. Like for instance, I completed my LLB by UNISA, I completed my national diploma in 2012. So I always put the institution, qualification, and the year when I completed or expect to complete a certain qualification. And then I always put my achievements. So my achievements is that I trained at the International Rugby Academy in New Zealand. They will ask more about this in the interview. What does this mean? Well, when I was in matric, I was sent to London, Australia, Singapore, New Zealand for a couple of months to train rugby there. It was myself, which was the first team. I was part of the first team, and the second team, we were all sent there at about 50 rugby players. And we came back after a couple of months, and because of that training, we managed to win every game in the season. You know what I'm saying? And then I was also elected house prefect at St. Stephen's Boys College. And they will also ask me to elaborate on this. I'll tell them this to me is a good trait because it showed that I adopted leadership skills from the age of 18, which was very young. Didn't know what I wanted to study at the time, but I was elected a prefect in a school of 750 pupils, boys. I was elected the house prefect, and I was in charge of the discipline portfolio. And we never had any expulsions or what do you call this, or suspensions, ever since I was the head of discipline as the house prefect at St. Stephen's. Always put your professional memberships, whether you are a professional accountant or a lawyer or an engineer. Engineers will put that they're part of part of EXA. Your accountants will put that, okay, they are a chartered accountant, but chartered accountancy also goes under education as well, because you are a chartered accountant with SAICA. So you put SAICA, what level you are at there. So you say your designation is CASA or management accountant. You put all your professional memberships, any membership that you are affiliated with. Just one that I haven't put here is SAPNA, the one that I'm affiliated with. So I just need, so that's a reminder that I need to update my CV. And then your computer literacy. This speaks a lot, especially for if you want to go abroad and work abroad. Just like I said, always make use of upskilling yourself in terms of your computer literacy. Put everything you've learned. I mean, ADAPT is a UK talent tracking system. Lever is a US talent tracking system. Placement Partner is international. Kaggle is for your IT candidates abroad. Angel List as well. Hire Easy is for international. So if I was looking for a role in the UK or in US, this will speak a lot to them, because it shows that I'm familiar with international systems, and I'm able to work with international systems. And it also shows that I am actually I take initiative to learn international systems so that I can stay abreast with industry trends within recruitment. These are, someone asked me about the type of platforms we use in recruitment. These are some of the platforms. There's a long list. I would finish tomorrow or next year if I had to go through them. And then obviously you'd put your personal details. You'll see that my ID number, I've put it as an asterisk, I'll put some asterisks there, only because we live in a day and age of very fraudulent people. So we need to be careful of the type of information we put out there. But also the CV you share, your CV that you share with recruiters and employers, they are bounded, legally bounded by the POPI Act to not utilize this information unless unless you give them permission. So if you give me permission to represent you for one role, I can only send you to that one role. I cannot be sending you to different roles without communicating with you first. So that's the POPI Act. So you obviously put your contact details there, make sure that they work. Always have an alternatives. I've got 2 numbers. You can always put your partner's number or your parents' number or your siblings' number, someone that will be reachable if you cannot be reachable in your primary number. Obviously, your email address where you can be contacted, and make sure that it's case sensitive, because sometimes you find that I've received an email but I haven't been able to review it because it didn't come through. Sorry, because of the case sensitivity. So just be careful of that as well. Also, your font. Yes.
My apologies for interrupting you. Would it be possible for you to maybe just zoom into the text? It's becoming a bit difficult to read.
Oh, sure, no problem. Sorry about that. I'll zoom. Hang on, there we go. Is that better?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Perfect. And then that's the personal details information. I never put where, like, my home address, because most of the applications you'd be doing online, so they always ask you there's always a toggle where you actually have to choose your geographical area. So I never put my physical address in my CV under personal details. But what you can do is always put country of residence or country and state of residence. You just put Gauteng, South Africa, or Johannesburg, Gauteng, South Africa. It's entirely up to you, but I wouldn't put anything more than this information under personal details. This is more than enough. And if they do require my ID, then obviously whichever recruiter or company or line manager is requesting for my ID, they will send me a form where I need to fill in, because the ID, we usually use it to check your citizenship and to check for any criminal activity and fraudulent activity, or any fraudulent listings that were put on you. Just be careful though with the fraudulent listings. You must always check with the South African fraudulent, what's it called? I forgot what it's called, but there's a body where you can go check if you've ever been listed there for fraud. You may have not committed a fraudulent activity, but maybe you lost an ID or driver's license and someone went and opened up accounts on behalf of your name. And when we do those checks, trust me, it will pick up, and we will request a reason from our service provider. What type of fraudulent listing is it? Find that, okay, the person applied with fraudulent documents, but it may have not been you. Like fraudulent bank statements, trust me, I've seen it. It may have not been the candidate because they may have lost their ID, their passport, or their driver's license, but obviously that institution or a bank or whatever had to list that specific ID number and name as per the ID that an account was tried to be opened using this ID number with fraudulent documents, fake documents. So just be very cognizant about putting your ID number out there. Because we do run these checks, but you can also always go check on that the fraud. Yes, it's South African Fraud Prevention Services. You can always check with them if you have been listed. It's funny how I've come across so many candidates who don't know that they are listed there, but who actually are listed. And it takes a bit of time for us to actually prove that they weren't convicted, or they weren't performing any fraudulent activities. So just always keep abreast with that. Keep checking your ID number. Always call them. You can call them. They can check quickly and tell you over the phone, or just drop them an email. They're online. And then I'll go to the employment history. So with employment history, I put as much information as I can, but then I try to narrow it down as much as I can so that it's not too long and not too boring. So I'll obviously put my employer, the period that I've been with this employer, and my position. So I always start with my current role or my most recent role. So here I've started with my current role. I've listed the duties which is expected of me, my KPIs. I've rewritten them myself, but then I also I've put in the industries of the industries that I focus in. So for instance, like if you an auditor, chartered accountant, we want to know which industries you're auditing. You're auditing the construction industry, the finance industry. We want to know what you are exposed to. Going back to my legal guy there, we want to know when you finish with your articles, we want to know which industries you are exposed to. Were you exposed to employment law, labor law, banking and finance law, mergers and acquisitions, construction law, data law? You need to be list your job duties as thorough as you can, but also keeping in mind the length of your CV. So I always start with the current role. I always prefer looking at the current role because whoever is going to be looking at your CV doesn't want to be going all the way down and then going up to look at your stuff. I mean, it doesn't make sense going from education, achievements, and your personal details, and then to the last job. It doesn't make sense. Also, it shows like how you structured it. It speaks to your organizational skills. I mean, it speaks to how you work. You know, most employers want your CV structured with your most recent or your current employee, and it must be a timeline. Your employment must be a timeline, and it must work in order. So what you'll notice here on my current employee that I haven't put, that I didn't put there, but I put here in my previous employee is my reason for leaving. Some companies, they want to know why you left. So be very brief. Sometimes if you're not going to put reasons for leaving at all, don't put them. I always tell my candidates, don't put your reasons for leaving. I will ask you each role, when I'm interviewing you, each role that you've been in, I want to ask you why you left. I need to understand what was your thought process. Why did you leave? I left Edge Executive Search because Pinpoint One offered a better opportunity for me. I could now recruit not just in South Africa, but in Africa and in other countries. Although at Edge Executive Search, I was recruiting for Qatar and the US, but now my portfolio where I am now, they've created a portfolio where it's much bigger, it's more responsibility, it's more countries. So that's the reason why I left. Be very honest with your reason for leaving. If you're retrenched, write it down. Retrenched, company was going through a restructure. Write it down. And trust me, we as recruiters, we're gonna Google if Edge Executive Search was going through a retrenchment stage during the year of 2023, any year in 2023. We're going to find out. We know the industry leaders. We're going to speak to them. Were you really retrenching? Just to find out is this person being credited, to check your credibility and your integrity and honesty. Some people will write, I was retrenched. But in all essence, you are actually fired. You were dismissed. If it was just you and 2 other people, you are not retrenched. A retrenchment process is thorough. It goes through Section 189. The whole company needs to be informed that a retrenchment process is going to undergo, and the reason and who may be affected. So we will even ask, as recruiters and employees, we will ask if something doesn't add up with your reason for leaving and you say it was retrenchment. We will ask you to provide your Section 189 letter that you received from Edge Executive Search. And you should be able to provide it because it will be sitting in your emails. And it's the type of letter that you need to actually present when you're going to apply for a UIN. You know what I'm saying? So you can't say, I don't have it. You will have it unless something's fishy. As a recruiter, I will ask you, I will probe. What was your reason for leaving? If it doesn't make sense, I will probe until I get an adequate answer, if not adequate, but honest answer, so that I can consult with you and advise on what you should rather put as opposed to what you wrote. That way, we can even have you can even have a more comprehensive discussion on the reason for leaving with whoever is interviewing you for that company, which makes the chances of you becoming employed even better. I had a candidate, just a quick example. He was an engineering candidate. He was a professional engineer registered with EXA in the property industry, and I was working with a listed facilities management company, and they were looking for a principal engineer down in Cape Town to handle all their banking clients. So basically looking after all the engineering for all the buildings and branches of the bank. So there was a gap in this candidate's CV, about a 7-year gap. And after the 7 years, he started working again, where he was doing contract work. But I asked him, why did you leave that employer and not work for a whole 7 years? And he was very honest with me. I commend him a lot for his honesty and his integrity, because he told me straight up, listen, I was serving time in prison. I was hanging around with the wrong crowd, and I happened to be in a getaway car with my friends while I was working. So it was a fun night out, and I wasn't aware that they were going to commit an armed robbery crime. And the fact that he was very honest with me, I mentioned it to, I didn't even have to run his criminal checks, because he was open. He's like, I served my time. I was an accomplice. My family didn't have money to hire a private attorney, so I just had to plead guilty, but I'm trying to fix my life. I served my time. And guess what? He got the opportunity, not as a contractor, permanent role. He's even been promoted twice in the space of 3 years. So your reasons for leaving you should be very honest if you're going to put them. But even when you are being interviewed, and we ask, everyone's going to ask you, every recruiter and line manager is going to ask you, what was your reason for leaving? You need to be honest, because we will do a background check and we will know why you really left. Okay. So this is it. Basically my CV. I left MTI for a better opportunity, which was provided to me at what do you call this, edge executive search, because I'll be running international recruitment as well, because MTI was only South African recruitment. McDonald and Company, what was my reason for leaving? I was in the UK, it was on site, it was a fixed term contract for 1 year, which ended, and therefore I had to relocate. And your job duties, another thing, your job duties cannot be the same. They can never be the same. They'll never be the same, even though you may be doing the same type of role, but your job duties won't be the same. So the job duties at MTI will not be the same as at McDonald and Company. You know what I'm saying? So be careful of what you write in your CV in terms of job duties. And just like I said, it must go in chronological order and so forth. You can always put your references in a CV. However, I prefer not to, because you need to give us permission of who we must call anyway. Even though you may have listed them in your CV, I don't list them in my CV. Even though you may have listed them in your CV, but we still need to get your written permission that you can contact the former recruitment manager at Goldfields that I reported into in 2009 to 2013. You can contact that person. You may have listed it at the bottom as references, but I'm not allowed, because of the POPI Act, I'm not legally allowed to just go directly call your references that you've listed with their numbers. I'm not allowed to do that and start asking them questions about you. I'm going to ask you on the phone, can you please share with me 2 or 3 references that I can call? Okay, perfect. That you reported into directly. We're not looking for your friends. Be careful. Not looking for your friends. Looking for someone that you reported into, or someone that you worked with. But at least one of them must be someone that you've reported into, or someone, and then the other reference can be someone that you worked with, like your colleague you worked in line with, or a stakeholder, or a client that you've successfully serviced. So we will always ask for references, but then we won't just go and call your referees without speaking to you. I'll call you, I'll ask you, and then based on your feedback, you will then send me an email. You can contact so-and-so, or even tell me via the phone, contact so-and-so, but I'll also require it in writing, so that we can also cover everyone's behinds. I mean, I'm covering mine, covering yours. We're doing everything, following processes and procedures the right way. Thank you so much. That is my CV. I hope it looks good. If you want to use it as a template, I've shared it with Lisa. I will also share the Word format for it, because this is the PDF. You guys can use it. And I'm more than happy for you guys to use it. I'm giving you permission. and you can just request it from Lisa or send an email or whatever the case may be. So thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to present my skill set and what the recruitment process is and what we look for as recruiters in this day and age, and what type of skills we look for. Thank you so much for allowing me to present all of that. It's been the utmost pleasure. I hope I can one day present to you guys again, or maybe you could take what you've learned from today and actually initiate it and put it into plan and action. I hope today's presentation has helped or given you insight on how you can structure your CV before you can actually go out and apply for roles. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, and thank you to the UNISA team for allowing me this opportunity. I completely appreciate it. Thank you, Hazel and Lisa, for referring me for this special event. I am truly honored, and I apologize for the technical difficulties earlier, but we did manage to get through everything. If we have any questions, please shoot.
Thank you, Lihle. Yes, although we did go over time, we do also understand, due to the challenges. Quite a few people have posted questions for us. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to read that out to you so that you could just respond to some of them. I've tried to, just structure the questions in such a way that we can group some of them so that we can also save some time on, responding to the questions. Okay, so one of the questions, or a couple of them, were related to, for example, if you apply for a position and you don't get feedback, what are the processes or what are the techniques that you can use to give feedback? And somebody specifically asked about, if I'm not successful, how do I know what I'm doing wrong? So getting feedback on the things that you could possibly improve.
So how do you request for feedback? Firstly, it is on the recruiter or the line manager's onus to provide feedback to candidates. If you applied for a role, I know most companies use generic emails. Yes, we'll use generic emails mostly to the candidates. These emails are automated to the candidates where the system didn't necessarily pick up the non-negotiables. Then obviously you weren't successful, and I'll go back to saying, always first read the job advert to mitigate getting such automated responses via email. And if you've been, sorry, I'm just drinking water. Thank you. If you've been for an interview, or you've been invited for an interview, and you haven't received feedback, let's say from a recruiter, trust me, that recruiter, and they submitted your CV, that recruiter did get feedback from the line manager of company X. They did get feedback, whether it's internal or if it's the recruiter. The line manager gave feedback. They have to, by law, they have to provide you with feedback, whether it is good or not. HR professionals and recruiters should not only be giving you positive feedback, they should be giving you negative feedback as well, and why your application was rejected. So if they don't give it to you, it speaks to their level of professionalism. And if you as a candidate want to work with that person, then I myself as a candidate would go to the extent of actually searching on LinkedIn who this role will report into this business, because obviously you would have told me who the company is, who this person reports into this business, and actually make it my own mission to find this person on LinkedIn, maybe get their email. There's a lot of platforms that assist with finding people's emails right now, like Rocket Reach, professional emails, not personal emails, and maybe approach them. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't bombard them with 100 emails. Send one email today, maybe wait for 2 days. If there's no response, send another one, kindly requesting for feedback. If there's still no response, pick up the phone, call them. You are entitled to feedback because you shared sensitive information about yourself. You shared a legal document about yourself with a third party. Yes, you want to join them, but you are entitled to feedback. So I'll do whatever I can to get feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Find out who's the person in charge and bypass whoever is not giving you feedback and go get feedback yourself. I encourage it. I don't condone recruiters who do not provide feedback. And recruiters would just say, no, the line manager said, no, you're not the right fit. But why? You're gonna have questions on why wasn't I the right fit? Ask them, why wasn't I the right fit, so that I know why what I can change about what I'm doing currently, or about how I can structure my CV honestly. So always ask them, why was I unsuccessful? The automated emails, those are usually to candidates who were never invited for interviews. But if you went for an interview, you are entitled for feedback and comprehensive feedback. So probe for feedback, ask questions. Ask them, what does line management think I can do differently to be successful for such a role, if it's a role more senior? I hope that answers your question adequately.
Thank you. Okay, so the next couple of questions is more about putting together your CV. So Alberto is asking, what is your take on the use of CV making applications such as Intelligent CV when creating a CV, and what precautions should one take when using such resources?
Okay, perfect. To answer your question, you should be very careful on the type of information you put in there. Like, for instance, I'll be careful about the personal information you put in there. Like, just like I said, your ID number, that's very sensitive information that can be very detrimental to you on a personal matter, or even a professional aspect. I'll be very careful on what type of information I put. I'll put information that are specifically required for a specific job or my experiences. And these people who come to you and say we can, these websites where you can generate CVs and all that stuff. Yes, they're good, and some of them are good. I'm not saying you shouldn't use them, but I'll be careful on how I use them. I prefer a more old school approach where, just like I mentioned earlier, in ways of finding roles, is actually searching online the recruitment agencies that deal in the field you want to work in, or the field that you are currently in, and then you register with them. They are by law bounded to protect your information to the utmost professionalism. They're not allowed to share it without speaking to you. Yes, you've registered your CV with our website, but if I want to send your CV, I can't just send it without speaking to you. You don't even know about the job. You don't even know about anything. I'm just sending your CV to some random person. Then I am obliged to actually speak to you. That way, it will make it much more easier than in terms of drafting your CV, and make it much more safer, rather. Than using these online platforms, because now you're engaging with a recruiter, and he or she are gonna write your CV with you / for you, and then share it with you. That CV, you can keep it, and trust me, it will look professional. It will be very good because it's done with a professional, depending on how professional they are, because you do get your weird fly-by-night recruiters. But what I'm saying is that you will get guidance from a recruiter on how you should structure your CV. So I would rather go that route than to go on these websites and systems that help you generate a CV. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Lihle. Then Caesar was wondering, how do recruiters feel about borders, underlines, and extras on a CV? Do they prefer it plain and straightforward?
Look, it's all up to you, to be honest with you. As long as it looks professional and presentable, it doesn't look like it's not chaotic. As long as it's not chaotic. Simple, I always go with simple. Simple is the best. You can put borders. I don't believe in going going extra and putting double borders and all of that. I prefer simple. If you want to put a border, put a border. But make it look nice and simple and professional. Don't make it look like it's all over the place. The font is different. The fonts are different. Make it one font, with the only exception where the headings are bolded. That's my take. I feel like I always use Arial 10. I feel like that's the best. It's easy to read. It's easy on the eyes. You don't have to squint to look. Make your CV very easy to read and adaptable. So you make it. I go with simple. A lot of employers like simple. I hope that answers you.
Yes, thank you, Lihle. So what you're saying is it's very important to keep in mind that in the end, somebody is going to have to read your CV. So if it's difficult to read, then, perhaps it would be discouraging for them to read through everything. So
correct, Lisa, correct.
Simple.
Because think about it, guys. Think about it when you were still in primary school, right? They always stressed when you're writing essays or you answering questions, they always stressed writing in between the lines and neatly, because it's going to affect your marking. Think about this. Use the same principle with typing your CV, because it's going to be the decision maker on whether you get a chance to put your foot in the door or not. Or honestly, that's how it is. Take that same principle and use it.
Okay, then Zamatombeni, I'm just going to paraphrase. She was just talking about, that you shared an example of what your CV format looks like. But obviously, for example, if you go and Google, CV format or whatever, you will get like 10 million different kinds of ideas of what a CV should look like. So it can be quite confusing. So is there any kind of advice you can give? How do we make sense of all the different advice that is available online? What do we keep, what do we ignore? What are some of the best practices that you could recommend?
I completely agree with you. It can be very overwhelming when you're trying to type a CV from scratch and you have no idea, no guidance whatsoever. I completely understand. It can be very frustrating on which template to choose, because there's millions of templates that you can choose from. And what I would suggest from my personal view, I'm not saying that everyone should do this, but what I would suggest is going for a very plain, simple, and yet professional template, which will allow you to put in as much information as you want and as you can, and then from there, just to start off. And then from there, once you've identified the agency that deals with the sector that you'd love to go into, you then will speak to a recruiter. You tell them straight up, this is my CV. I don't know if it's perfect. Tell me if there's anything you need me to change or how I can change it. And trust me, they will help you, because at the end of the day, you being successful means that I am also successful. So everyone wins. So obviously, I'm going to guide and coach you on how you can structure your CV. But obviously, just choose. I'll suggest to choose the most plain and professional and easy to actually put as much information as you can. I hope that answers you.
Thank you, Lihle. I know that when you showed us your example of your CV, you did mention the importance of a photo, and you did mention that it's important to have a professional photo. So the question is, is it always compulsory? What is your take on including a photo on a CV? Also considering, often we are given the advice not to include information on the CV that could maybe allow somebody to discriminate against us. So how do you manage, that aspect of including the photo, but being worried that it could then, create an impression of yourself that you wouldn't want them to consider, as kind of a first step?
That's a good question. So I wouldn't say a photo is important or is a big aspect of it, but coming from my background, I feel like reading something, okay, let me not say my background, me personally as a recruiter, I'm not saying I'm going to disregard CVs that don't have pictures. I mean, 99% of the time I come across CVs with no pictures. But every time I come across a CV with a professional picture, I feel more intrigued and more engaged. It's not like I'm just reading a document. I've got an idea of who I'm reading about. So it's not necessary, it's not important, but maybe some recruiters, it's definitely not all, because I'm just talking about myself as a recruiter. It gives me an idea, like I'm more engaged. It's like, okay, I'm actually, I see the person that I'm reading about, and it's more of a personal matter for me, per se, but it's not a necessity. It's not a must. Just like I said, 99% of the CVs I come across don't have pictures. And let's say, for instance, now without sounding discriminatory or derogatory, like let's say, for instance, a role, and we will advertise if a role is looking for let's say disabled candidates, let's say a disabled chartered accountant for external audit. We will mention that we're looking for disabled candidates. For me, if I came across of a professional chartered accountant CV that they applied, and there's a picture of them, and maybe they on their wheelchair, again, it would add on to that that personal factor about it. So I'm not saying it's important. It isn't important at all. It's not even necessary. So you can either put a picture if you want to, but if you want to put a picture, put a professional picture, is what I was saying. Don't put a picture where you sipping down on your preferred cold beverages with your friends. No, that's not professional. I don't want to know about your personal life. I may want to know about it once we start engaging in the interview stages, but not right now. Not via the paper, come on. So it's not necessary to answer your question, so you don't have to put one. If you don't feel comfortable with putting one, then don't put one. It's all up to you.
Yeah, thank you, Lihle. Maureen, was also part of your question relates to, is it important or necessary to structure your CV according to every position you are applying for? So if you could just comment on, when you apply for like 5 different positions, for example, do you need to adjust your CV according to the organization and the criteria? What is your take on that?
So my take on that, it can go different ways. Okay, so this is my take on it as a recruiter. You're applying, you're online, you come across 5 different positions. I'm going to make an example of myself as a recruiter. I come across 5 different positions that fit my profile. Maybe they just named differently, like senior recruitment consultant, talent acquisition specialist, talent partner, recruiter, or human resources business partner. It depends. But when you look at the job titles, they may differ from each other, but they are all similar. You know, you need to read between the lines here. And how you structure your CV now, and in terms of your job duties, you definitely have to keep the job title. You don't have a choice. You have to keep it. But then your duties are the ones that are going to explain exactly what you are doing. So where do you get these duties? You get them from your KPIs, your key performance indicators, which you will get from HR of any organization that you're on. So you take those and you will structure them according to the job that you're applying for, or you make it, you rewrite it in a generic form that speaks to all 5 job applications. But obviously, for each job application, it's got its own added advantage. So whether you have it or not, you will add it for that specific job. Hence why I stress the factor of reading a job advert word for word, and can you make sense of it, of what you're doing, because it's going to be worded differently to your KPIs, but actually the exact same thing. And you having created a generic job duty list that speaks to all 5, it makes it easier for yourself, and it also speaks to your organizational skills, that you actually work smarter than harder. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Lihle. There were a couple of questions that came through. Interesting question about, is there such a thing as being too qualified for a role, of being overqualified? And if you are applying for a role, where you may have additional qualifications that may not be required, could there be a chance that the recruiter or the employer would view it kind of negatively?
That's a really great question. That's a really great question. There's a yes and a no to that question, and I'll tell you why. The world is changing. We are in the 4th industrial revolution. Everything is digitizing right now, and a lot of organizational development professionals that I've worked with in your big investment banks and financial institutions, they are now looking for people who are more diversified. They're looking for your career student. So when you have a CV that states that you are a chartered accountant, for instance, and you are currently studying an LLB, that speaks volumes on you. So that's where the yes comes into play. That speaks volumes on you in the sense that you've made an intangible credential, which is the LLB, a deciding factor on whether or not you should be hired. You know what I'm saying? You've managed to take initiative in diversifying your career. You can either be in an accounting firm or in a legal firm, because what? You've diversified your career. You can practice law or you can practice accounting. You've diversified your career, or you can do both in a corporate or commercial perspective, where let's say, for instance, you're in a private bank. I know most private banks right now, they're looking for candidates like that. I've got a client who's a line manager that I deal with of one of these prominent banks, these private banks. She's the organizational development director. And she was saying that the people in the recruitment team, the internal recruitment team, are actually chartered accountants, engineers, lawyers, The one is actually even a professional pilot, but they went and diversified their careers and did either industrial psychology or human resources management to get into recruitment. That way, now they are talent acquisition partners of this bank, but then the thing is, they're not stuck there. If they wanted to make a career shift, they can go back to their first professions, practice what they were practicing, say recruitment, in their first professions. You know what I'm saying? It shows that you've diversified, or you've taken initiative to diversify your career. You're not afraid to try new things. You're not afraid to learn. You're not afraid to fail and try again. It shows that you take initiative. So that's where the yes comes in. The no comes in when, let's say, for instance, a finance director back in 2018 for a sugar manufacturing business that worked directly with the outsourced audit firm to sign off the financials. And they found that they actually inflated the business's assets. This is a true story. And now this finance director was subsequently dismissed along with that firm because of ethical issues. You see what I'm saying? Now they haven't been working since, let's say, 2018, since they got dismissed. And now they apply for a finance manager role. Then yes, of course you are overqualified. You were a finance manager way before you were a finance director. Why are you? And recruiters, sometimes they don't read, they don't look at the news, some of them, and of what's going on to keep up with industry trends. And if they do keep up with industry trends, they'll know that this is why this person hasn't been working. Therefore, I shouldn't even be approaching them, because it shows how they misused previously financials for a large entity, therefore putting it under litigation, you know? And I would, if I kept up with industry trends, I wouldn't even want to speak to that person. For number one, why are they applying for finance manager role when they were a finance director? You know, if they were retrenched and the company was going through retrenchments and they haven't found formal employment, trust me, that person will be doing some finance consulting on the side. They wouldn't just be sitting and doing nothing. But to answer your question, no, in the sense that it all depends on why they would be applying for a role that's much lower than where they are or were previously. So it speaks to ethics as well. I hope that answers you.
Thank you, Lihle. I think there were 2 or 3 questions about, you know, applying for opportunities at international companies versus local companies. Are there any specific, in your experience, are there major differences in terms of that process? Are there any specific tips or hints that you can share about applying for international positions?
Great question, and I'm so happy you asked that. The past 3 years, let's say the past 2 years, since 2021, professional services companies such as your legal firms, your audit firms, international ones, have found that our standards of learning are actually, they compete at their level, and our qualifications compete at their level. Now, I want to speak specifically towards the auditing space. I found that a lot of international firms, your PwCs, your Deloittes, your EY, your KPMG, your BDO, all of these big audit firms, they prefer getting talent from South Africa as opposed to hiring from their countries. Why? Number one, we do the same thing, or they do the same thing in that profession. They have the same standards. And number two, we show more diligence and at a very cheaper rate, if you catch my drift. We what they consider the labor they want, but at a cheap rate. So that gives, to answer your question, there are a lot of opportunities out there that I've seen personally, where clients abroad come to me and they tell us about their requirements and how they want strictly South African talent. And it's actually crazy, because it started off in the UK, and it's moved, and after the UK initiated such trends, we saw a lot of requirement and industry trend in the US on doing the same thing. And I was probably making about 6 to 7 placements a week in the UK and in the US, South African talent, where they would be sponsored to go in these different countries. A week, 7, I couldn't believe it. I was happy, candidates were happy, companies were happy. I mean, they're spending less on labor, but they're getting their money's worth type of thing. And candidates' careers are progressing as well. And my professional profile is also progressing, and companies are getting what they want. I mean, like, look, not just in accounting, it's across the board. I won't lie to you. The finance space, the tech space, FMCG, the construction space. I feel like we have the talent, and it's sitting here in our backyard, but we just need the right ways to access it. But so I hope that answers your questions. There's a lot of opportunities out there internationally.
You did mention about the references on, that you do not include them in the CV, but you did mention that if you go through the recruitment process, at some stage, the recruiter will, request the references, and they will follow up on that. Is that normally done right towards the end of the recruitment process? At what stage do you need to provide the references? So that's a question from Pumzile. And then I was also wondering if you could shortly just comment on, like me as a job seeker, for example, what are some of the things that I need to keep in mind when I start negotiating with other people to be my referees?
All right. So references, like, I've got no issue with you listing your references in your CV. Why I don't have an issue with it, I mean, you would have listed the name and the company that they worked at, where you reported into them, and the level of seniority they're in. So that speaks wonders of the level of the role that you were in. I don't mind that. If you didn't mention it in your job duties that you reported to, let's say, the finance manager, if you were just a management accountant, and you just put it in your references that this is Thabo Ngwenya was the finance manager at company X. I don't mind you putting them for that in that perspective. However, whether you put them or not, like, it really doesn't make a difference, because at the end of the day, I'm not as a recruiter, I'm not legally allowed to go contact your references without your written permission. It's illegal. I cannot do that. Even though you listed them, it doesn't mean that you're giving me permission to contact them. So it doesn't matter if you put them or not, because a good recruiter will ask you, even though you've listed them and the cell phone number or the contact details, the email addresses, everything, a good recruiter will ask for your permission and will ask for it in writing, so that you giving me permission that I may contact this person. It goes the same way, man. Your friend asks for another friend's number. You're not just going to give that other friend's number to another friend. You're going to ask that friend, can I give your number to that person? You know what I'm saying? It's that type of legality that's binding us in terms of references. So it's up to you if you want to put them or not. And if you're a job seeker and you listed a reference or you're trying to get someone to be a referee for you, I would suggest getting your direct line manager. If nothing was wrong, if you did nothing wrong and you performed or even if you underperformed and you went under performance review, but you were quite honest about it in the interview process, then there's nothing wrong with giving your former supervisor's reference, but I mean contact details as a referee. But obviously, you as a candidate, you need to contact them. And as soon as I ask you as a recruiter for your referees, you need to contact them, call them, don't email them, call them. Like, may I please give out your number to Lihle? He's from Pinpoint One Human Resources Management, and it's for a job that I applied for. This job is so-and-so, the company is so-and-so. He's the recruiter I'm dealing with. Fine, then you send it through to me. And then you can even ask them, can you please, obviously they have to be honest. They have to be honest, but obviously you can speak to, it also depends on the relationship you have with your referee, but I wouldn't recommend asking them to lie. And I mean, if they were your supervisor, they wouldn't lie. They're in a much more senior level, but you can tell them about the interview process and what type of people you've been interviewing with, so that they have an idea of who's going to call them and when they can expect that call, because you'll find that they're busy. Or you can ask them when is the best time for Lihle to give you a phone call. It's just common courtesy, you know. But you shouldn't ask them to lie for you. It's not a great look, both for you and the referee, and it tarnishes the relationship drastically, because and it wastes a lot of time, because once references, to answer the other question now, once references are asked, I usually ask them when a client comes back to me and says, I want to see Joe Soap. I will then ask the candidate, can you please forward me the necessary documents, the necessary POPI documents, such as your ID, qualifications, your most recent payslip, and I'll attach a form that you sign. You can sign it digitally or manually and scan it back to me that you're giving me permission to send your CV, and another form where you're giving me permission to actually to run your risk checks. And then after you've sent those to me, I only ask those after the client has said they want to see you. So if I were a candidate, I would always make sure those documents are ready. Most times they don't need them to be certified, but I would make sure that they're ready, even on my phone in the cloud. I'd make sure that they're ready by just a click's notice away, because it speeds up the process as well. You don't want to be going back and forth looking for documents from 2017. You know, always make sure that you have them in like one folder on your phone or wherever. Like, keep them ready, because once we ask for those references, we also ask for all those documents, and it speeds up the process. And if there is a job offer, you get a job offer quicker, and it leaves some room for negotiation as well. So you can also breathe, you know what I'm saying? So I always ask them just before your first interview, so that I can run everything before the interview. By the time the interview starts, I would have gotten back the results. And because the next step, I know for sure they're going to want those results. And then from there, they're going to want your second interview, where there's just a formality, you meet the team and all that stuff. And then I already know after that there's an offer. So when I ask them from just before the interview, that's when I'm actually going to ask your references as well. So you will also be given time to notify your referees that a recruiter will be calling them for a position you applied for. Be open with them as well. But if it was a bad supervisor, I wouldn't suggest, or if you had a bad relationship with them, or you the relationship ended on a bad note, I wouldn't even list that reference. I would rather find someone else. I'm sure most organizations, you never report to one person. There is the main person, but you never report to one person. There is never a case where you can have a bad relationship with both line managers. I've never seen it in my life. I'm yet to see it till this day. So there's always someone that you can find, or if not, a colleague of yours who can speak highly of you, but then obviously honestly. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. There's 2 more questions left. So the second last question, Anonymous was wondering, if I've been employed to the same employer for more than 10 years, does it work against me when looking for my new job? Is there a way of putting it on my CV without appearing as a stagnant person?
That's a great question. 10 years. I'm actually impressed. Excuse me, I'm impressed. It's seldom you find candidates like you. That's very commendable. A lot of people are very jumpy now. I mean, 3 years is a lot, to be honest with you. It shows that number one, you are loyal. There's nothing wrong with that. I've come across a lot of candidates who've stayed with that one employer for the entire career. It shows loyalty. It shows that you actually want to build the team, or there's a lot that you want to do for the business. You are actually an asset as opposed to a liability. But then again, my question to you would be, have you been growing in the business? If you've been in the same role, I would then, as a recruiter, I'm going to give you some constructive criticism here. If you've been in the same role for 10 years, I will then raise my eyebrows in the sense that, okay, why have you been in this role for 10 years? Why haven't you grown from this role? I mean, it's a different story if you've been in the same role as a CEO, a group CEO, that's different. But now let's say you middle management or even lower than that, I'm going to ask myself, why haven't you progressed in the business? I understand you're loyal to the business, but I need to understand why you haven't progressed in the business. And it could be a number of reasons, but then it will raise eyebrows why you haven't progressed. So it's always wise to find ways of progressing in the business, whether it's via upskilling yourself via the tech stack, or via education that the business probably is lacking in terms of requirement and so forth. So I mean, you've been there for 10 years, so obviously you should be looking for gaps to infiltrate the business and obviously progress your career as well. So that's another question that I would ask as well. So it purely depends. It can go both ways to answer your question. I mean, if you've progressed in the business, I understand why you're staying. You're doing wonders in the business. You're doing very well. You're being rewarded for your achievements and your hard work. But then if you in one position for 10 years, which is like management or mid-management or lower, it will raise eyebrows. I'll be very honest with you. Like, why haven't you progressed? So always stay abreast on what's the gap, where the gaps are in the business, and try to fill them yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Lihle. Then the last question, there was some request if people would want to connect with you, would you be open to such, for example, on LinkedIn, if that would be possible?
Yes, for sure. No problem. I am on LinkedIn. You can contact me on LinkedIn anytime. You can connect with me. My name is Lihle, Lihle. My surname is Fikizolo, Fikizolo. There's not, I haven't come across any other recruiter who's Lihle Fikizolo, to be honest. So yeah, connect with me. I'm happy to share my thoughts. I'm happy to engage with any of you.
Okay, thank you very much. I am aware that perhaps we didn't address all the questions, but I think that we did manage to address either during the presentation or as we were talking about the answers. But if there's anything that you would want to share with us or further question that you have, please feel free to email us. So I'm just going to share our contact details with you. So if you have any feedback or suggestions or any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to send an email to Mrs. Mandu Makanya. The email address is there on the screen. Then in terms of getting a hold of counsellors at UNISA's Directorate for Counselling and Career Development, you are welcome to send us an email to the counselling@unisa.ac.za email address. If you would want to have a discussion with a counsellor, you can do such online, or you could contact a counsellor at any of the UNISA regional offices if you would like to go and talk to somebody in person. Then in terms of our website, which is at www.unisa.ac.za/counselling, we post a lot of resources there, specifically around helping you to develop your career more effectively. So if you want to get more resources about any of the topics that we spoke about today, that is available on our website. And then the YouTube channel, youtube.com/UNISA Careers. We post all the recordings for the workshops that we do online there. This one for today will be posted by tomorrow afternoon. So on that note, I'm just going to ask my colleague, Mr. Beki Mzobe, if he could just end off the session for us. Thank you, Beki.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and good afternoon, everyone. We have now reached the end of today's session. On that note, I take this opportunity on behalf of my colleagues and entire Directorate for Counselling and Career Development at UNISA to express our profound gratitude to our guest speaker, Mr. Lihle Fikizolo, for such an excellent and interesting presentation. Thank you for clarifying the recruitment process to students, make them understand what recruiters look for in a CV, and also clarify other aspects concerning the recruitment process. It is with no doubt that students benefited from your knowledge and experience, and I'm also hopeful that they will take advantage of this valuable information you shared with them. It is an interesting topic though, judging from the questions and comments posted under Q&A and the number of students attended today. Thank you so much, Lihle, for sharing your time and experience with us. Thank you so much. I also extend my special thanks to Lisa for always facilitating these sessions very well, sometimes under very difficult conditions. Thank you so much, Lisa. Finally, I would also like to thank students for attending and making this event a success. Once again, we'd like to apologize for inconvenience as we were experiencing technical difficulties today. We sincerely apologize. Thank you to each one of you who participated in today's session. Thank you so much. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Beki, and thank you very much, colleagues. And also from my side, I hope that you will join us for our sessions that are coming up for the rest of April and the beginning of May. Thank you for your time.